everybody. I'd like to call this a meeting to order. It's now 6 o'clock. Roll call, Tina here, Joanne here, Stephen
Here.
Danielle is absent, and Nicole here. We all please and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to number 4. I'd like to possibly, if we can, approve these agendas, these items separately. Number 4 is approval of agenda. Can I get a
I would
motion?
make a motion to approve the agenda.
Seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Say
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Sorry, then moving on to number 5 is where I'd like to approve these separately, if we can do so. Moving 5A was July 17th. I printed the wrong one, sorry. July 17th, regular meeting minutes. Did anyone have any questions on those? Seeking a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 7th.
Seeking a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to July 17th, budget hearing and annual meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes as well?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for July 17th for budget hearing and annual meeting minutes.
Seeking a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 5B, Treasurer's Report. We're gonna have June and July in this report, so we can start with June, please.
Okay, Community State Bank cash account started at the beginning of the month, $113,548.53. Ended the month with $372,651.62. Community State Bank credit card account started the month, $23,927.41. Ended the month with $11,899.50. Community State Bank Capital Improvement Trust Fund 46 started and ended the month with $3,000. Petty cash started and ended the month with $500. Petty cash in the school office started and ended the month with $200. Cash with the fiscal agent, again, that's our WISC account with PMA. Started at the beginning of the month with $7,907,903.98. Ended the month with $7,542,848.75. Local government investment pool started the month with $1,543,128.23. Ended the month with $2,841,254.78. For a grand asset total in the beginning of the month for $9,592,208.15. At the end of the month, $10,772,354.65. Any questions?
Andrew, is there any questions?
My only question is, why do we have you read that to us?
It's supposed to be read at the board meetings. If I can find a shorter way to do it, I
I'm
would
just
do it.
curious.
They're supposed to be read. It's kind of like when you do what do you call those things? You have to read
Like a
the
treasurer's report?
whole darn thing
Okay.
when you pass a.
I just didn't know if it was something we do because it was asked for at some point, or if it's a requirement. Just
It's a
seems
requirement,
odd
but if
because
you,
we have the report.
I think if there was a way that we could make it shorter, I will do that.
So as you understand it, with you not being here last month, should I have read it, or should somebody
You
read that
could.
monthly?
You could have read it,
We
yes.
probably should read it monthly, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
could have read it.
all right. Okay, very good.
And again, this is not the cash that's in the bank, this is the budgeted amounts that we accrued. So it's not going to match our cash report. Ready for July?
Do we want to do a motion to approve the June treasurer's report?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the June treasurer's report. Seeking a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to July's treasurer's report.
Start at the beginning of the month in the Community State Bank cash account, $372,651.62. Ended the month with $272,691.86. Community State Bank credit card account, started the month with $11,899.50. Ended the month with $9,115.29. Capital Improvement Trust Fund 46, started and ended the month with $3,000. Petty cash, started and ended the month with $500. Petty cash in the school office, started and ended the month with $200. Cash with the fiscal agent, started the month with $7,542,848.75. Ended the month with $6,514,380.39. Local government investment pool, started the month with $2,841,254.78. Ended the month with $1,943,367.87. For a grand asset total in the beginning of the month of $10,772,354.65. Ending the month with $8,743,255.41. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the July treasurer's report. Seeking seconds.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to June cash report.
For checks written June 14th, 2024 to July 10th, 2024. Check numbers 103137 to 103197. Wire transfers 2023-00268 to 2023-00290. And the total amount of $784,682.09. Any questions?
Well, you actually moved on to the June checks, right? To 5C there.
Yeah, I was trying to find.
Is that where we want to do it? Tina? I mean, typically we don't.
June cash report.
5B.
I mean, typically we don't review that, I don't think,
read it,
but
okay. Sorry.
it's up, it's, you know.
Don't have to be
Excuse me.
approved.
Well, I don't know, since we didn't approve it, yeah,
It's just
I mean, typically we approved it by consent, I think, at the end.
Usually it was consent agenda item.
Yeah, so I don't
It's
know
just
how
that
do you want to
we've
do it?
broken them down now, so it depends on how you guys want to approve them, that's all.
Okay. So that was the June check.
June checks, right?
Right.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the June checks report. Taking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 4-0. Going down to July's checks.
Checks written from July 11th, 2024 to August 13th, 2024. Check numbers 103199 to 103300. Wire transfers 2024-00005 to 2024-00033 with the total amount of $1,125,604.92. Any questions?
Can I get a motion to approve the July check report? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the July check report. Take it a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any Any nays? All right, do you want to do these were all done individually before? No. Okay. Moving on to 5D, personnel hires, resignations, and leaves.
Well, do we need to approve all those reports though, or not? By consent or in some fashion, or no? I don't know what the rules are. I mean, we typically just did them all and that, I think, covered all the reports. but-
Right, when I was doing a meeting review class, and they said they needed to be done individually, so that's why I chose to do them individually. But if we don't review them all, then we can just, that's what you guys wanna do, that's what we'll do. We can just approve 5A, B, and C all together, unless there's any questions.
Yeah, however you, whatever, I'm fine either way. I guess. I just want to make sure we're doing it.
I'll make a motion to approve A, B, and C. Seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, moving on to 5D.
Personnel and hires, just one this month. Brianna Fleece, who is coming to us from Randall School. She has 10 years of experience, and she also has her library media license from first grade through 8th grade. She had some close contacts here at Bristol and wanted to come over, so we're happy to have her. I told Tina in our conversation on Friday morning that when you have teachers that transfer from county school to county school, sometimes it's, we want to just make sure we're doing it the right way, right? So we talked to Bob, who is the district administrator over at Randall, and Ron, who's the principal, and just made them very clear that Bree was coming to us on her own and applied, and was by far the best candidate, and has been here the last few days for our new staff orientation, and we're just thrilled to have her. So that would be my recommendation tonight, is to accept the personnel hire of Brianna Fleece as our library and media specialist.
Can I get a motion to approve the hiring of Brianna, please?
I'll make a motion to hire Brianna Fleece.
Seeking a second.
Nicole's 10 for 10.
I will do a roll call vote on this. Danielle is not here. Joanne?
Oh, yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Steven?
Aye.
Tina? Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to number 6, Carrie with her 2024-2025 school year protocols reports.
Stop sharing.
I can stop sharing. Here you go.
So I'm really excited to share with you all of the exciting things that are happening for the upcoming school year. A lot of work happening over the summer, and just lots of really great stuff, and I'm really excited to get the staff back next week and start working on some of these different items. So there are 4 priority areas, at least from my side of the room. And those priority areas are Act 20, so it would be literacy legislation that was given to us from the state. And then really focusing on growing our PLC and data culture. That's really connected back to our strategic plan. Really digging into the math implementation in grades 3 through 8. And then the shift over into standards-based rating in middle school English language arts. So, first thing I wanted to review with you is what's happening with Act 20, and just a general overview, as well as some of the challenges and things that we're going to have to navigate this year. So Act 20 has a few different components. One major component is that it requires all administrators and teachers who teach reading in grades 4K through 3rd grade to have some training in a structured literacy program. So we have the leader training already completed. We did that. We started that work a couple years ago, actually. And so that leader training has been completed. And the teacher training needs to be completed, or needs to be started by June of 2025. So we are starting that this year and kind of tiering our approach, because as you know, we have some of our teachers in 3rd grade both have a math focus and have Act 20. So we will get them started off with their literacy training in the second half of the year so that they can really focus on that math transition, again, trying to balance out the workload for those teachers. We were nervous initially about the cost of the teacher training because the state is not paying for any of the training. And the original training options were thousands upon thousands of dollars, and we didn't have that in our budget. We found a training that's actually free of charge, and we have found a way to then compensate our teachers, either through flexing of some time for them to leave during the early release days a little earlier so that they can engage in that self-paced training, but then also dedicating some really specific time during our professional learning days so they can do that required training. And then we also are working with CESA 6, who is, they're probably the strongest as far as literacy coaching, and really making sure that this isn't just about checking the boxes. We're not just implementing and just doing the things that they're telling us, but that our teachers are actually really skilled in reflecting on this, because at the end of the day, the goal is that all of our kids can read proficiently by the end of 3rd grade, and without coaching and support, that's not as likely to happen. Another huge part of it is that curriculum implementation. So as you guys know, we are in our 2nd full year of implementation of Wonders, or going into it rather. And that's going well, and that really supports and aligns the work that we've been doing with our CESA training and the different things. If I refer to Cox Campus, that is the teacher training. And then we also have some supplemental resources to support some early literacy practices, which include Heggerty, UFly. CESA 6 has some tools and strategies as well that we will be using. One of the biggest weights, and I shouldn't say one, they're all pretty heavy weights, but another big weight of Act 20 is the assessment requirement. We are required to give screeners to every child in 4K through 3rd grade. 4K is twice a year, and for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade requires a screener 3 times a year. Once we give that screener, then we're required to give a diagnostic assessment for any student who scores below the 25th percentile on the screener. So that is going to be something that we're going to need to really dig into and look at, and that all starts this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. And then another major component is the family communication. So we need to be able to provide results of the screener within 15 days. It's not 15 work days, it's 15 calendar days. So 10 work days essentially, so the time frame is very short. And we have to have reading plans, very intensive reading plans for any student who's below the 25th percentile. Positive thing is that we already do some version of this through our RTI program. When students are not scoring high on our previous screener, we did have them in Tier 3 interventions. We did have reading plans, maybe not specifically mapped out the way exactly that DBI wants us to do and that the state legislation wants us to do. But we had a start of it, and we're very confident in what that looks like moving forward. So the challenges that we have with Act 20, it's mostly unfunded. So the cost of training, the sub-coverage for teachers to go to training, it has to come from our local budget. And so I've worked a lot with Sue to move some funds around and make sure that we have the training to be able to compensate our teachers to engage in it, because I can't ask my teachers to engage in, this year it's 16 hours of training outside of the normal workday. And next year it'll be another 16 hours. So finding the time to, or the funds to be able to pay for that. And we've managed to work some things out, and we've found a way to use some title funds to support literacy coaching and practices, but not specifically Act 20, because we're not allowed to use title funds, because those are federal funds. We can't use federal funds to fund a
Federal
state,
program.
a state
Mhm.
law. The other challenge, and Kathleen Jopich, who's a reading specialist, and we've talked about, is that this requires an increased number of assessments. And I don't know about any of you, but I don't like giving assessment after assessment after assessment after assessment to especially our little people. And so we've had some conversations about what this looks like in removing some of the other assessments that we've been giving at those early grade levels. So historically, we've used MAP as our screener, and for those grade levels, we are planning on no longer doing MAP, at least on the literacy side, so that you're just taking one literacy screener and substituting it for the other, to minimize that at least a little bit.
So just, so Ames would be the one that replaces the maps?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
For the-
NWEA map,
Yeah, NWEA MAP, and then Ames
NWEA
Web
is just the company that owns
Oh, okay.
map. So
Okay.
if you
Okay.
ever saw NWEA
Gotcha.
or whatever,
Gotcha.
like that would be the company name, yeah.
But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
Ames
Ames
is
is
the
the-
company.
okay.
Pearson is the company that owns Ames.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other challenge is that all the assessments, except for one in second and third grade, are one-to-one assessments. That means that a person needs to literally sit down with a child and administer the test with them one at a time. So if you can imagine, if I have a kindergarten teacher and I have a classroom of 18 students, I somehow need to do this test one-on-one with every child. So that's where that question of sub-cost comes in. Kathleen and I, again, are really, really working hard to try to carry as much of this weight as possible, and our plan is actually to not try to use subs so that it doesn't incur those extra costs, but rather pause our intervention program and have our RTI aides and our interventionists provide those one-on-one assessments. We think it's possible. And we actually have a little bit of flexibility because the state has said that, given us a little bit of a break actually, instead of requiring us to do a fall screener, it's optional. So we have chosen to opt in to practice in the fall so that we can get this right and make sure that we're doing it correctly.
Because it was like,
Because we
3
learned what the
weeks ago.
was at the end of July, July 18th, I think we learned what the
they
screener
literally
was.
let us know like the last week of July. So that was that was their buffer for us, was that you don't have to do it in the fall if you don't want to, because it took us so long to pick a screener.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
So-
found out 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah. So very short timeline, but fortunately Kathleen and her team, the RTI team, has already been trained in using Ames and has already used those screeners. So we don't have to train the teachers, at least at this point in time, on administering the assessments if we have that team do it. So we have a good plan. It's just gonna be a lot of weight on Kathleen, myself, the RTI department, in getting this done. And then the other challenge is just the communication timeline. So we're going to attempt to meet all those timelines in the fall, but because it's optional, we likely won't meet that. And we plan on providing some communication to the families. Hey, this is what's going on with Act 20, this is what's expected, and this is what we're trying. And just so that they know that while we are giving this assessment, it is more so that practice, so that they are aware that there may be some lags, so that we can work out the kinks as we figure this all out. So we're working through it, and we're gonna make this work. We'll figure it out. We're really, and when I say we, I keep saying we, but me and Kathleen have been working so closely on this. It's good stuff. It really is good stuff. It's good for our kids. It's just a lot of stuff. And so we're trying to stay positive and focus on the good that's gonna come out of it. And I think that has truly helped. And so I didn't get this in the slides beforehand, but I wanted to share an email from a teacher just that we got a little while ago about the work that we've been doing for Act 20. So I'll give you a moment to just read this.
So this came from
one of our teachers.
one of our teachers.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Nice.
So it's one of those that, you know, I print up and I save for later, because, you know, it's like, okay,
Sure.
we're making this work, because it does feel, it's very stressful. And it is, like this teacher has shared, we've pushed them very, very hard, we have, because we have to.
Right.
But there's a lot of places that haven't even started this work, and so I'm really glad that we've been able to do that, and that, you know, the adoption of the curriculum resource has been very helpful with that, so, and the funding that has been, you know, that we've been allowed to use to do the trainings has been really beneficial for us.
Kudos. So the legislature, can I ask, so the legislature, I mean, you know, and obviously it's not gonna be achieved. But what they want is 100% proficiency. And they pulled this from other states that did similar things that improved their proficiency a fair amount from,
Mississippi
as I
being the
understand
main
it.
one. Yeah, yeah.
So do we, I mean, what is our proficiency rate right now? Do you know that off the top of
So,
your head for a third grader?
If I could, just,
Oh,
Go
sure.
for it, yeah.
well, so the big discussion amongst administrators and state legislators is what is proficient.
Right, right.
So if you see Mississippi, who, and I forget the woman's name, who was credited for implementing this program and taking it from 20% to 80% proficiency,
Right,
their proficiency numbers are still, as far as Wisconsin would be concerned, would be low to mid achieving Wisconsin numbers.
gotcha, right.
So that is also, I'm not trying to make excuses.
understand.
I just,
Yeah,
it's literally across the board.
Right.
I believe Utah and Wyoming are like here.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's third or fourth on that list.
Right.
And then everybody falls behind. I guess I'm proud of the fact that our literacy numbers, our goals, our expectations are high.
Right.
However, that also in turn means that our literacy, or I should say, our proficient numbers are lower. I don't know if that answers your question,
Mhm.
but there's really no true measure nationwide.
Right,
Each state picks their proficiency
Okay.
numbers. Ours are on the higher end, that's all I can say.
and
We are,
So this is where it gets complicated or kind of difficult to predict,
Sure.
because they're using a new measure.
correct.
So we've never taken Ames as a screener, and
Right.
that is how we're being assessed as far as the proficiency
Right,
level.
right.
So to say, like, what is our proficiency level, I could give you that as far as like math goes.
yeah, we get
but-
that off of maps
Correct.
Or the state,
or
or
the
the state
forward
forward
testing,
test.
right? Yeah, I mean, that's the one that.
But even the forward test, our proficiency level for the forward test is 48 out of 50 states. We're probably,
No, I got
you know,
you.
we're
No, I
top
understand.
2 or 3
No, I
states in the
understand.
country
Yeah, yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, we're proud of our proficiency numbers.
Yeah.
It's just that if we were in Mississippi,
Right.
we would have 97% of kids
Right.
that would be proficient. Here,
Yeah.
we're 47%.
No, I got it, and I think,
Yeah.
and we made improvements in this area, and I think in particular, if I remember
Especially-
correctly, the numbers, especially the kids that were on the lower end, have been improving
Oh,
greater.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over the last 3-4 years or whatever, which is fantastic. So, but you are positive about the program, that you feel that with this implementation, but with this, I mean, it's obviously a lot of work.
It's
But
a
with
lot
this
of work.
implementation, I mean, you do genuinely feel that it could help.
Yes.
I mean, if we can implement it, and again, it's a lot. So I guess my other question
I
is.
wish we had more time and more money to support it.
Carrie's a
because
sweetheart.
I mean,
Jack has stronger words about it, and
No,
I
I-
try to see
I
things
just,
with the
I just have a
rose-colored
hard
glasses.
time with state mandates that aren't funded.
Oh, sure,
You
sure.
know, that's
Sure.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
Do I think it's bad for kids? No.
Yeah, yeah. So we
Um,
can't do anything about the time, can't do much about the time. I mean, as far as the funding, I mean, is there funding yet that would be helpful, like with the substitutes or whatever, that, no, there's nothing that could help at this point? We
The
kind of.
only thing, and
Okay.
so this is where it does get dicey, is that like we are getting literacy coaching, but it is not specific to support Act 20, and we have to be very, very clear about that so that we can use our
There was a question in the Google Forms, I believe, at one point, that was just how much does it cost?
Oh, right.
And we have, let's say we have 75 kindergartners through third graders.
Right,
That's 300 kids. Each one of them has to take an 8 to 10 minute test with a teacher one-on-one,
right, right.
where somebody's gonna have to cover that classroom, right?
And we're trying
Ames-
to minimize that.
Ames software, how much is Janet out of her time, you know what I mean? It's very, very hard to actually quantify what it will cost.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a significant cost to it.
No, and I guess I appreciate that.
I don't think it's bad, you know,
Yeah.
I think Carrie, I think, you know, is really put a positive spin on it, just
Right,
because she
right.
is who she is.
Right.
But it's tough. It's tough for schools because it's an unfunded mandate, period.
No, and I get that, and I look at the budget, and I guess, I'm, I have concerns about 25, 26. But right now, 24, 25, we have, and it's probably gonna change to even a more positive. But right now, we have about $200,000 surplus. I don't know if you like the word surplus, but about a 200,000. So I guess my question is, and if we don't, if it doesn't matter because we're utilizing what we can use, I mean, can we put a certain amount, can we budget more dollars, $50,000 or whatever the case might be,
For
to
professional
help make this
development.
happen and allow
Yeah, potentially, yes.
to
And
take some of
really, I'd
this
like to
weight,
see
to
it go
use
down
your
to
word.
teachers.
The short answer is yes,
Yeah.
potentially, yes.
Okay.
I think that'd be a topic for a different discussion. You want to carry on with your presentation, please?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Just one really brief slide on math implementation, because we're just starting with this. So we did our first session from the Wisconsin Math Institute. That was from that professional learning that you guys approved back in May as a part of the math adoption. It was a very well-received professional learning session with the teachers and lots of great conversation. And we're continuing to work with them throughout the school year for our third grade through eighth grade teachers, and our third through eighth grade math teachers. And then we're starting to get comfortable with the new resource. Lots of questions coming in, and we're navigating that as we go. But it's always tricky as you have something new. So we're gonna figure it out. It's good. And then the last thing is the middle school English language arts standards-based reporting. So last year, our middle school ELA teachers did pilot a 4-point scale and provided feedback along the different standards. At that point, they then took their 4-point scale and converted it to a letter grade just to keep things consistent. So the idea of this is that just doing a slow process to transition, because it is a big shift and a big process. So then in 24-25, so this school year, we're looking at we will be having student progress being reported based on levels and specific standards rather than letter grades, just for ELA and middle school. So again, this is a big undertaking, and a slow roll is really, really important in this work. And so overall, why are we doing this? Well, our goal is to be in alignment with the high school. Central is moving to standards-based, and we want to improve our progress communication with students and families. So, I could say, oh, you have an A in math class. That's really great. Like, it's nice. It's a nice, feather in my cap. But are there places that I can continue to grow? Or are there little places that I may struggle? What are the specific areas that I can focus in on? And having those standards-based reporting codes are really going to help. And so I gave a math example. I should have given an ELA example. But the reporting codes that we'll be using are just the four levels developing. So the students demonstrating a knowledge and application of prerequisite skills and concepts that are below the grade level standard. Approaching means that they are almost on track with the grade level standard. They're getting there, on track and meeting. The student is proficient. They are on track with the current expectations for that grade level standard. We had a lot of conversations with the teachers about, like, why can't it just be meeting? Why doesn't it be on track? And that's a complicated question, because our standards, we take sometimes our standards, it takes a whole year to measure them and track them, and so what success looks like in October compared to what success on that same standard looks like in May is very different. So by having an on track, they're not proficient with the full standard, but they're on track to proficiency with that full standard. And so that's why there's an intentionality there with that on track we're meeting. And then excelling is basically the student is showing knowledge and skill that is above and beyond what's expected for that grade level standard. Oh, sorry, I thought that was the last one. I got all caught up into it. Then the very last thing is, I promised you it's the last thing, the PLC data culture, which very excited about. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So our strategic plan is focusing on building educator assessment and data literacy. And so this year we're diving into having some really consistent protocols for reviewing student data. We have specific time clearly dedicated for the review of this. So Wednesdays, the 4K through 3rd grade teachers will be using their collaboration time to focus on specific data, and then Thursdays will be for our 4th grade through 8th grade teachers. And so really exciting that we have that really clear cut process. And then our early release Fridays will be dedicated to our vertical team. So vertical just means that it's not just one grade level, it's all the grade levels. So we'll have like a literacy vertical team. So all the teachers from 4K through 8th grade will come together and just talk about literacy. So like each grade level will have a representative. So we'll have a literacy representative and let's say 2nd grade. One of the teachers will be the literacy lead, one person will be the math lead, one person will be the science, and one person will be the social studies. And so then they would each go to their different content area to represent their team there and engage in those discussions. So that's it.
I have some questions.
I do too.
First, just to back up a little to math, are we on Amplify now, 3rd through 8th, or is Bridges still 3rd and 4th?
So back in May, the proposal had Amplify for 5th through 8th, and
Right.
3rd and 4th had Bridges on it.
Yes, I know that, but then I thought somebody said, maybe I dreamt it, that we were also adding 3rd and 4th to Amplify. No?
No,
Okay.
it's Bridges,
Okay.
yeah, Bridges 3rd and 4th. So that way we'd have that continuity from K through 4, or 4K through 4th grade has Bridges, and then we make that transition at 5th
Okay.
grade.
Thank you.
Yes, great question.
And then, I don't have kids, I don't like that grading program, but I don't have kids.
No.
Parents, what do you guys think?
It reminds me of 4K and kindergarten grading system, so where the report cards look completely different.
Yes, they will have the different standards, so ELA has 5 standards that they will be reporting out on. And so those teachers will be reporting out on, again, those different levels, and,
So you'll have like specific lines of like, they can write a 5-paragraph or something.
Something
Just
like
something
that,
like
yes,
I'm just
yes.
trying to give an example,
Mhm.
but.
yes. So it had that specific criteria.
Specific to the standard.
Yeah,
Will
to
that
their
take
grade
place
level.
of, sorry,
No,
will that take place of the 80-20 that was last year?
So, basically, in a standards-based grading system, it's almost entirely like it's hard to explain. So they're summative events, so everything is an assessment of learning essentially, so everything is put into that standard, and weighted essentially equally. So, like typically, homework and practice isn't counted at all as a part of the grade, because
So that
that's,
won't be 20% anymore?
it'll be 0, which is in line with the high school.
Okay.
why is that? Is that like a state thing? Is that?
No, it's so that there's not inaccuracies in the grade. So when you do homework, when a child does homework, and remember the idea is that like our grades are providing an accurate representation of what a child knows. So when a kid does homework is intended to be practiced. If it's my first try doing something, probably not going to be good at it, and I don't expect the students to be good at it. So the idea is that they're getting that practice, and we don't want to penalize them for a score that isn't representative of what they know. So they do the practice, and the practice
Then they're
just
not gonna do the homework.
actually, there's a lot of research that shows that they do, because they know that they're not going to be successful on the assessments if they're not practicing. It's much like kids going to sports. Kids don't not go to their practice because they just get the win or loss they go to all the practices because they know that they have to do that to be successful at the game. And that's the same idea with the homework. And so it's surprising to a lot of people.
So the homework will be done in class and not be at home, or there will be homework? Because will it be teaching like in the classroom, and then practice potentially will be at night?
It depends. My stance on homework is that it should be done as much in class as possible. However, like if a student isn't paying attention or dilly-dallying or fooling around, well, then you need to take a practice home. So that's what we, at least for ELA, that's been a big focus of us too, is like trying to keep all that practice in class. But there are certain circumstances, again, if the child's absent, they're gonna have to do that practice on their own, or again, if they're not following expectations, they're gonna do this home as
So
well.
then everything's based on tests and quizzes?
Mhm.
So what about all the kids that can't test very well under the stress?
So that's where you have like the makeup processes and things like that, or offering alternate types of assessment.
So last year, some of the teachers, some gave makeup tests, no problem. Some said, absolutely not, we won't do a makeup test. So I think that has to just be across the board,
Yeah.
like,
I'm meeting with the teachers next week. We have a session to have like a consistent process and what that looks like across all the grade levels. Because
Yeah.
we got a lot of feedback on that, and so we're gonna work on developing that, and then that will be communicated across the board.
okay.
Returning homework though and getting that graded and having it mean something is also an indicator of how much they're absorbing and being able to do that. That I think, as Nicole said, there are some kids that are like, why should I do that? I don't get any credit for it.
Well, I guess I
But we're
suppose.
grading compliance at that point.
Mhm.
So is there any studies or tests
Yeah.
that actually shows the difference between this type of grading system versus
Lots.
in doing actual
Dozens,
homework and getting
hundreds.
graded?
Yes,
Okay.
all of the educational experts support this style of grading because it's far more accurate and reliable than a letter grading system. One of the things, a lot of people hold on to the letter grading system because it's really easy. But just because it's
Not even
easy
just that, but
doesn't
just
mean that it's
The accountability
clear.
of homework and like extra assignments and all that. Is there any studies for that? Like, is there any comparison instead of just focusing on tests and quizzes?
I guess ultimately, what do you want a grade to portray?
Well, I think it should be all of it.
Compliance or learning?
Well, it should be all of it, learning, because like Joanne just said, I mean, you're,
Just because you do your
Learning something.
homework, it doesn't mean you're
And
learning
you're
anything. It means
absorbing
you're
it.
complying and doing your homework.
Well, I don't know that that's completely true. You're learning something while you're doing it.
Right,
Even
but if they
even if you're
don't do
making
it-
the wrong answers, which then gives the teacher like, oh my goodness, they don't.
we might need to
they don't
backtrack
have a
and find this
grasp on
area.
this at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what practice is for.
Yeah, get them that feedback. Something that we've been doing too, is like when the students are doing like, and this is a math example, so not ELA one, but Ms. Hubble, our 8th grade math teacher, she gives all the assignments and says, hey, these are the problems that make the most sense. Like, these are ones I recommend you guys practicing. If you're getting it, then you don't have to do it. So then there's some flexibility there. If the kids are understanding it, then they don't have to do extra work. So then it gives some responsibility and ownership to the students. The other thing then is that she gives a homework quiz at the end of the week. So after she's given them that feedback and time, she'll literally take questions directly off the homework. And if they've done the homework and done the practice, there it is. There's that evidence.
So Central does this across the board?
They are moving to it. They
They're
haven't
moving to
started
it.
yet. No.
Oh,
So I've been
okay.
in close
They're moving to it.
conversations with their curriculum director over there.
Wilmont does.
Yeah, Wilmont is starting.
Central is moving towards it. They're
Yeah.
not there yet.
Okay, and then ELA this year, potentially math.
Correct. So
and-
this is
ELA
just
this year,
ELA.
Matt, we're
Yeah,
looking at
that's the
Matt
other
for
part of it,
next
is
year.
that it's not
Yeah.
across the board. We're gonna experiment with ELA.
I
And,
I love it. I like progress. And I think if this is what's being taught, and it's working elsewhere, and that's what the educators say, I don't know how,
Change isn't always
I think
progress.
it's not good.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there too, and the parents I've spoken to, like the grades, kids to be measured along the way and have that count. There are some kids that can't sit down and do a test without getting so
I'm
nervous.
gonna
they
admit,
blank.
I'm one of them. I flunked all my tests, but the only thing that saved me through school was all the work I did. Because I had good work. With tests, I have anxiety with, so I can't, I guess I tend to go to those kids where you're putting everything on these tests and quizzes,
And their time.
and they're timed.
I would like to
Anxieties.
share that our grades last year with the shift to having 20% homework and 80% tests, the grades were consistent with previous year's grades, so it didn't change the grades at all. So I don't necessarily think that the issue that you're bringing up is as big of a deal as it may feel to you personally, because our teachers are so good, and they work really hard with students who struggle to take tests, and they build relationships, and they find ways for them to be successful. It's never a teacher's goal for a child to be unsuccessful.
I know that.
And exactly. So we never, and I say we because I see myself as a teacher in a lot of ways too, but a teacher doesn't ever want to give a grade that's not an accurate representation of a child. So the beauty of standards-based grading too is that you can say, okay, I've seen you do X, Y, and Z, or maybe you didn't do a great test. Let me just ask you a couple of quick questions about this and tell me what you know. And I can discern, okay, you're getting this standard. I can really tell that you're getting this standard, and that's evidence enough to be able to show that progress. So there's multiple ways to assess, and it's going to be a learning curve, but it's really powerful because then the kids know exactly the specific things that they can focus in on and the places that they need to grow.
How would this be reviewed then with the parents? You might have already said this.
Right.
Open house, I'm
Yes.
assuming, would that be the main?
Yep.
the-
Yep, the classroom, so the ELA teachers have a letter that's going to be shared
That's what
with
I
the
was gonna say,
families
and
yep,
it'll get
at that
sent.
time and
Okay.
going through. And
By
then-
standard.
Yeah. I love it.
What are some of the new electives that are being offered this year?
So this year we have culinary arts, so, our receptionist Anna Mulgard, who retired from the school office, has taken on a role of supporting, in culinary arts and kind of guiding those teachers, as well as Sarah Gilmore, our, kitchen supervisor, thank you. So we have that, Tony's not in here, but Tony's going to be doing some cinematography, so working with kids on how to take something from beginning to end as far as like the production, and publishing and broadcasting some things. I'm trying to think of the other things that are coming up in exploratory. We have the exploratories that are required, which sounds silly, but they have 6 slots. So of the 6 slots, 2 of them are the required ones. So there's financial literacy that they will get in 6th and 8th grade, and college and career prep. Sorry, financial literacy is 7th and 8th grade. College and career prep is 6th and 8th grade, and that really focuses on a lot of like digital literacy skills, how to use the computer, how to do research, how to just be successful in both high school, a career, and beyond. So we want to be really mindful that not all of our kids are going to be going into college, but just having that background to be able to be successful in school, and then as they move out. And then 8th grade, there's a Holocaust class that is required. And then I'm trying to remember, 6th grade financial literacy. Oh, 7th grade, the required class is health, which that hasn't changed. And I believe the other ones are staying consistent. I'd have to review the guidebook because there's a lot of them.
Where do we find the research on that grading system? You said there's been tons of positive research where the homework doesn't count.
I have a bunch of books. Thomas Guskey, he's a key researcher at the University of Kentucky. He's probably the most prevalent one. Another name in that area would be Wormley. He's more a practitioner from the practitioner side. Who's the house?
Stiggins and Wiggins?
Stiggins and Wiggins, yes, those guys, and then the guy who does the instruction that works.
Marzano?
Marzano, Robert Marzano. He's a huge research guy, does lots of like meta studies.
Robert Marzano's probably the most famous. Stiggins and Wiggins,
Are
sorry.
you guys okay with that? That grading system? We're the
I'm not
board.
as a parent,
We're
but-
the board, what do we think of that? I personally don't like it. And I'm stuck on it, as you can tell.
Well,
I know you love it. You
Well,
already said
I just
that.
personally think that this type of decision should be in the educator's hands.
Well,
At the same
actually,
time,
it's
like
the
long
board's
term,
job
it
to
doesn't teach
oversee
you much
things.
because you can go to college and your teacher's not gonna hold your hand or sit with you and go, oh yeah, you do know this, you don't have to take the NLN exam or nursing exam or doctor exam or whatever, they're not gonna be there.
But at college, you don't get any homework graded. It's 100%, 100%
It's
tests
100%
college.
exams.
What-
You have a midterm and a final, those are your
Yeah,
exams.
but you still have homework, like you
Oh,
But
still.
you don't
Exactly.
get graded on
You're
it.
Also
also
preparing them for that.
an older kid at that point.
Right, but I don't, that's, I'm just trying to say that it's not really prepping you for, I don't know. I don't see it preparing for any of that.
Well, I mean, as a board, we have an obligation to look into things that are such a major change. And as I said, I have parents that want the grading system for the homework. So to see this just wipes that out completely. And I get your reasons if you're talking about a high school kid, but these are younger kids.
We do it,
The
we
younger
actually do
kids.
standard-based grading in 4K through second grade.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Yeah.
do, yeah,
So it
4K
does
through
work for the
second, we already have
youngest kids.
standard-based
Right.
grading.
Right.
So I guess what's the question or the opposition, the 3rd through 8th grade?
Yeah, wherever we're doing it, where kids are doing homework, they should get credit for their homework. And as Nicole said, and as I said, a lot of people can't do a test, especially timed. And stress is real in our society.
The tricky thing about homework too, especially if it's brought home, is that oftentimes if it's brought home, it's not done by the child. It's done by a collaboration of the parent and the child. And so
Or
you're
a
providing
group of
a
kids
grade for
together.
something that the child did not do on their own.
Or a group of kids together.
Or a group of kids together, yes. And so it's not an
It should be done
accurate-
in school. The kids are already here for 8 hours a day. It
Correct.
should be done in school.
Yeah.
Well,
It
then
shouldn't
that's
be
not
at home
homework.
when there's baths and home, and everything else has to be done at the home level.
Agreed.
I am in agreement with that. I do not like homework.
That's not homework then, yeah.
That's coursework, but yeah, practice.
I'm not okay with it, so I want that in the notes, and whatever you guys decide is fine, but.
I'm not okay with
I
it.
don't think that we
As a
just
parent.
rubber stamp approve everything because we haven't done any research on it, we don't know any of this stuff. And what I hear from parents, and although I'm a parent, mine are adults. The parents I've spoken to don't like that. So.
So I'm
And we
assuming high school, they don't get graded on homework at all.
No,
No, they're,
Not-
at
not
Central, they're
Central or
100%.
Walmart.
Does that include the
My
projects?
daughter did summer school
Papers?
this year and she got homework and got grades on it, even in gym.
What they shared with me is that they only assess like what they call summative. So yes, some papers can be a summative assessment, projects can be as well as assessments. It's just not the day-to-day practice that would be falling into that.
Oh, what do you guys think?
I don't like it.
Me either. Nicole?
I know, I don't.
I mean, I
I
guess,
don't know what we do about that
yeah, I mean, I guess
Well-
my question would be, I mean, it sounds like, you know, you're probably gonna get some pushback on this. Obviously, you're going to be training the teachers in how to speak to this and how to speak to the parents, I'm sure. maybe you're gonna get more pushback than you originally thought. I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe,
Is this
maybe,
more of a
maybe you're not.
mandatory thing?
No,
Or
this
just
is a
like, hey, we're
choice.
just doing it?
We're choosing it because it's a more valid and reliable measure of what the students know and are able to do. And it also significantly supports student motivation and engagement. Like I said, we did have the ELA teachers last year do like a pseudo of it, where at the end, it still reported up the final grade. The feedback that they received from the students and their parents was overwhelmingly positive, that my child is more engaged and knows exactly what they have to work on, and, so again, lots of positive feedback on that end, and so it just takes that one less barrier of having to take something that they're already grading and then converting it to something else, which isn't exactly an accurate representation of how it was broken up.
I don't know what
I don't know either.
the next step would be, but just wanna put it in the notes, so.
Well, I mean, we have the authority to say, no, we can't do that. We do have that authority. So do we want to go back and do more research? Do we want some more information provided? Or do we want to just say in the notes that we don't agree with that, let it happen anyways?
Are you familiar with policy 5421? That would be the one I would recommend looking at, 5421.
Okay.
That would be a good policy to look at.
Can we, is it worth speaking to now? Can
Yes.
I say it out loud, or?
You want me to read the whole thing?
No, I said, can I, or?
Uh,
Well, I don't know how big it is. I don't know what
It's-
you're
it's relatively
referencing
short.
exactly.
It's got my notes all over it. But I can give it to you.
Which one's that, 54?
5421.
Yeah, I guess we can pull it up.
Those are all under review as well.
It's not that short.
Oh, it's
5421 grading. The Board of Education recognizes responsibility for providing, is it okay if I read this, Tina?
You may, absolutely. 'Cause
The Board of Education recognizes its responsibility for providing a system of grading student achievement that can help the student, teachers, and parents judge properly how well the student is achieving the goals of the district's program. The board believes that the district's grading system should be a reliable system and one that ensures each student's grades signify accurately his or her degree of accomplishment of those expected learning outcomes, which are to be stated for each program at every grade level, 1 through 8. The board directs the district administrator to develop procedures for grading in accordance with policy 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal educational opportunity, which, A, develop clear, consistent criteria and standards, particularly when grades are based on subjective assessment. Help each student understand each course or program, what behavior and or achievement is needed to earn each grade, as well as what will produce a failing grade. C, provide frequent opportunities for each student to obtain information as to his or her progress toward the learning goals of his or her courses or programs. D, provide for a pass-fail grade in programs where appropriate. And E, provide students the opportunity to assess both their own achievements and their areas of difficulty. The grading system should not inhibit the professional staff member from learning each student's individual strengths and weaknesses. Grading system should be subject to continual review by staff, students, and parents. Revisions shall be made only when changes will assure a more valid or reliable or clearer system of grading. Teacher responsible for a student's instruction in a particular course or program should determine the student's grade. That grade may not be changed without the teacher's consent unless overruled by the principal. Again, that's where,
Okay.
with
And
the
that was last
research
revised
that's
in 2018.
that's been done, it just seems that what we're trying to accomplish fits those goals and
Well, we
I don't
can
know.
rubber stamp things forward, but if it's.
No, I'm not saying rubber stamp, I'm just, I've been on the board for 2.5 years, I've watched board meetings for 7.5 years now. And, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, we've made great strides in education at the school. And I think our number one goal as a board is to help improve student achievement. And I think if, as a board, we put roadblocks on our principal and district administrator for a new program that it's been proven, and research has been done, that it makes a positive difference for our kids.
How do you know that? Who put roadblocks?
You know what I'm saying? If we put roadblocks by not allowing a change.
We don't know the research though.
Well, I don't have
That's
the
not our
research.
fault.
What's that? I'm sorry.
What?
That's not your fault. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can research it, I guess, yeah. I mean,
It's
obviously.
the high, like every, like, look up Verzano, look up Stiggins and Wiggins and the greatest educators on the planet who are in favor of this system. I don't like, I guess we're not doing things to try to hurt kids. That's where I guess I struggle.
No one ever said that.
No, and I don't think anybody's accusing you of that. But change isn't always good.
Okay. Like,
I think, you know, and I'll just state, you know,
been in education for
When I-
25 years, and I've been, like, standards-based learning in 2004 was a thing, and we're now in 2024 and just introducing it in Bristol.
and I understand your frustration.
I'm not frustrated. I just want because I've done the research.
Right.
Carrie's the top of her field. She is, if you ask anybody, literally in the Midwest, of somebody who knows what they're talking about in curriculum and instruction, they're gonna point at Carrie Houston's.
And in my opinion, the last 3 years, that's been proven. Again, that's my opinion. And I just, you know, when I came on the board 2.5 years ago, I mean, we talked before I came on the board about, you know, student achievement, you know, Bristol looking like a Mequon or Hartford or, and you know what, if we bury our heads in the sand and we just say we don't want to change, we're never going to become that. We're going to be, you know, we're doing well now. We're doing good. We're up here someplace, but why can't we be here? And we're not going to get here if we don't make this type of a commitment, in my opinion. I just think that, you know, and I'm sure we will have a lot of parents that say, well, you know, this isn't the way I did it 25 years ago. A through F and getting graded on homework was fine with me and fine for my kids. And I'm sure your teachers are going to hear that. Unfortunately, I just think it's a shame if we don't let the educators do their work.
And Stephen, I'm sure they need to hear some of that, but like I said, like overwhelmingly, it has been very positive. And so, well, I hear your discomfort because it is something new, and it is very different from anything that we've ever experienced before, right? Like this looks and feels different. I think there's probably almost a century of, well, maybe not quite a century, but of letter-based grades. So it's what we were raised on, what our parents were raised on. There's a sense of comfort because we understand that system. And I would really encourage just to see and experience what it feels like and what the perspectives are as we implement it in ELA this year. I wouldn't be proposing a change that I don't think is going to hurt anyone by any way. Like, my main goal is to make sure that our students are successful and that we are more accurately communicating with our families and more clearly communicating with our families than we ever have before. That is the ultimate goal at the end of the day. And your questions and concerns are the same questions that concerns that always come up when discussions about standards-based grading comes up. And, it's one of those things where I know it's hard for probably to hear like, well, what about the kids who don't test well, or what about the kids that need that homework piece? It just works, and the research shows it. It does, and I know that that's probably not the easiest thing to take at face value, but,
So last year was the change of the 80-20. And this year now is the change of the standard-based grading, and it's only gonna be in ELA, so ELA will not have this 80-20. Okay. Why do we keep changing it though?
to continue moving forward with a more reliable and valid system of grading that
It's not far
supports student
from the-
motivation and has clarity with what we're actually assessing.
And it's really not far from the 80.
So it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade?
Yes.
It's only for ELA for this year. I can tell you this, I mean, it was a struggle this year for my kiddos. I know it's not just for my kiddos, but it was a huge struggle and fight. I know I've shared it with everybody, that it wasn't a fun year at all. So I only gather what next year is gonna be.
And I've heard that from.
And they're
a lot
bright
of-
kids, they're not, they're not D's and F's kids, they're bright kids. And it was a huge struggle.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of parents and some teachers.
Teachers as well, were not fond of it. And then there were teachers that were only doing test and there were teachers that were doing no test and just homework. So it was not consistent at all.
Any change does take time and learning, and if we, that's one of the hardest things about education is anytime you make a change, you have to have time to be able to continuously support and teachers
But we
are
keep changing and changing and changing, we're not getting that support if we keep changing and changing and changing. It's just
that's why it's
reinventing the
slow.
wheel of,
Slow and over time. So, so when you say changing and changing, it's changing, yes, in the same direction. So it's like a staircase, basically. We're trying to get to the top of the staircase, and each change helps us get a little bit closer to that final rung. We don't want to take that huge jump from one end to the other. It's very intentional and structured that way.
I'm on record with my thoughts, so you guys do your thing, however you feel about it. I feel strongly that, it's not a good practice.
I guess I just hope that the parents will sit down with the teachers in the open house and have an open mind. Because there is a situation now where, with social media and such coming out of this meeting, the whole brouhaha could happen. And that would
Open
be-
house,
and that-
though, is not the time
and that
when
would-
it's so
And that
chaotic.
would be unfortunate. Well, if you have if you have a suggestion, I'd love,
I don't
There's a
have
suggestion that
a-
beyond open
a-
house, if there's another way to do it, because you're right, open house is tough, it's quick and,
When you have 4 kids that need 4 teachers, you can't really have a
yeah,
conversation.
so I don't know if
Yes,
we
what-
could talk about if there's another
Well,
way
what's the
to.
board's recommendation for a grading scale then, I guess, or what, if this isn't being supported, then what is the recommendation, I guess?
Keep it the way it was.
I will say, it goes back to the standards letter grades. We will have some very upset teachers, including some of our best teachers. This could be the strong.
So the teachers are overwhelmingly for this, they feel this is gonna help their students.
They're the ones that are pushing for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have been.
I actually
the
didn't
entire
push
time.
for this. This is such.
All of the middle grade, or only a couple
Our
of the
Engli-
middle?
Our English department in specific.
And our
which-
math department as well, they're ready to go, they just didn't wanna do it
'Cause they know
with
it's
the
what
Brady
makes
math
the kids.
curriculum at the same time, so that's, again, we're tiering the shift.
to the next?
I'm sorry, I didn't
I
hear
mean,
this.
do we move on to the next topic on the agenda?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we do.
I don't know, I'd have to see what to do, but we can move on to, thank you for all your slides and stuff.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, thank you so much. Great job.
Move on to number 7, Dr. Tia Monin, the special education report. Thank you for being patient with all our questions.
Thank you for allowing me to do the presentation today on special education update. Ms. Marshall, would you mind?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for some of you who have heard this information before, I'm updating the information, so if you have heard me use data from previous presentations, please forgive me for that.
That's not mine, that's Ollie's, by the way, yeah. I don't have Vivian on my laptop, so I'm using Ollie's.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say that throughout my presentation, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask right away, just so that I can address it, I'll be happy to. Or if you'd like to ask questions towards the end, please feel free to do so then as well. Thank you. So, my second slide has data on projected reevaluation numbers for 23-24 school year, but also has information that has actual numbers from previous years. 2020-2021 school year, as you remember, that's the COVID year. So we had a lot of leftover evaluations that were unable to be completed. And the way that special education works is that every 3 years we complete reevaluations. So the projection for 23-24 year was kind of like a repeat of 2020-2021 school year. So that's why we had projected certain numbers. And then the following slide, just to show you that one, has the actual numbers listed here. So the projection and the final numbers are very similar. So we did have a large load of evaluations that we had to complete in the department.
And what is 504? I should probably know what 504 is, but.
So the different, great question. 504s and IEPs. So section 504 plan typically has accommodations for the students, but it does not provide specially designed instruction that is provided to students who have IEPs, which stands for Individualized Educational Program. And each plan is developed for each student, and it has direct instruction provided by either special education teacher, speech and language pathologist, occupational therapist. We also have orientation and mobility specialist, physical therapist, vision and hearing impairment itinerants that come into the district. So we do have a lot of services that our students
The
receive.
best way, sorry Taya, the best way it was described to me was like, so in a 504, a student might have extended time, or 20 questions instead of 25 questions. Whereas in IEP, those questions are actually physically changed to meet the needs of the child. Right, like, or could be, I should say, right? So, or they would have a specific, there would be an actual change to the curriculum for that child.
Gotcha.
Whereas a 504 would just be simply extended time or less questions or something like that, where accommodation versus modification, thank you, yeah. Accommodation versus modification.
Like if
Okay,
we have
that's
some
what she
type
said.
of-
Yeah, well, for me, I have to remind myself too, because it's a
Or
good
if we
question.
need like a medical,
No, I got
like
you.
a
Yeah.
diabetic person.
Yeah, modification versus, yeah,
Okay,
Yes,
thank
the
you.
students who have, thank you.
yeah.
The students who have a section 504 plan, they are still considered to be within general education, but yes, they might need extra accommodations, or sometimes we do provide also like sensory tools for those
Yeah.
students that need them, or students with IEPs has actually increased from 96 to 102. And then the different categories are broken down into each category, showing how many students we have in each.
I
So-
do have a question.
Yes.
I know it says 96, but your previous slide says total 61 for that same school year. So I was
For
confused on,
reevaluations,
for, initial total, we have a total of 61.
so if you don't mind going to my previous slide. So this one talks about initial IEP evaluations and reevaluations. That does not account for all of the students. That's just the rotation of, like when every 3 years we do reevaluations. So those 36 kiddos just came up to
Got
be
it.
reevaluated. At the same time, we had requests to conduct initial evaluations for 25 students.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Great question, yes. So, and overall, our numbers, total numbers went from 96 to 102. And then that 102 is broken down into each category. So we have 12 students who have autism. EDBD stands for emotional behavioral disability. We have 2 students with that. Hearing impairment 3, orthopedic impairment 1, other health impairment 20, significant developmental delay 9, and specific learning disability 27, and speech and language impairment 28.
And those, excuse me, Tia, those, like, for example, the speech and language impairment, although there's 28 children for that, they also might qualify for some of the other
Yes, absolutely.
bullet points that you have above that,
Mhm,
correct?
yes.
Yeah.
So students, for example, who have autism, they might need speech and language therapy as well as occupational therapy to meet their needs in different facets that it impacts them. Absolutely. Mhm. Same thing for physical therapy. And there's high comorbidity between different disabilities too. So these are the numbers that were presented to you. That's the child's primary disability. So somebody who has, let's say, specific learning disability, let's take that one. That could be their primary disability, but their secondary might be other health impairment.
Gotcha.
Now, as you might have heard, we have a private school who has moved into our school district, Billings, and that has a tremendous impact on our school district. And this just points out some of those different impacts that we will be experiencing. So at Open Wings, we have 23 students currently who qualify for special education. And those, they have more students at that school. Some of them are high schoolers. So it also impacts Central. So out of the 23 kiddos that have moved into our district, we expect them to obviously have reevaluations coming up just like our own students. So we are obligated to do child find activities for them right away. When it comes to equitable services refers to us providing.
I'm sorry, I clicked it.
Oh.
Yep, no, just moved down to one.
Thank you.
Yep.
So this year, we do not have to provide equitable services to those students. And that means that if a child qualifies for speech and language therapy, for example, right now, currently, we don't have funds. So we have not reserved any funds to do that. And the state is not requiring us to do that this year. But this year, we will be able to report to the state saying that this school has moved into our boundaries and this is how many students there are, so that we can receive funding for that. And then next year, we could say that, okay, this is what we can do for those students using the funds that were allocated to us.
I have a silly question. Doesn't Open Wings have their own support staff?
some, depends on which kind of, yeah, great question,
Yeah.
because they do not have their own speech and language therapists. They do not have their own occupational therapist, physical therapist, all the other. But
As a
here,
public
I
school,
think that-
we're obligated to give those services to them.
I understand that, but I mean, and my point is for a private special school.
You would think, right, yeah.
You would think that they would have those professionals, or
You would
if
think.
I was sending my child to that, I want one where they have those staff.
Absolutely, you would think, right, yeah. So they're moving into the building right across from, like Highway C Service, the church there, I can't remember the name
Oh,
of the
yeah,
church.
okay.
That's where they're moving there.
And usually it's where the kids live, right? But because it's where they go to school.
Where they go to
It's where they go to school.
Yeah.
Some of the students there, like in a private school, they can have students from different states.
States, yeah,
Even from
Wow.
Illinois,
Yeah.
they-
Oh, that's
It's where they
true,
land.
That's true.
yeah,
I can see that, depending on
yeah, it's where they
the
land,
severity.
unfortunately.
Do they actually live there then, the kids?
The
It's just a school.
students are either from Kenosha Unified or Racine School District, but because they are now within our boundaries. we
Some
don't
from
have
Northern
that
Illinois,
responsibility.
I think, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Some from Northern Illinois, I think there's a few kids from Northern Illinois, most are from Kenosha Unified or Racine Unified, yeah. But it's where they land, like, because their building is now in Bristol, it's our responsibility for those services, yeah.
So we have to do the child fund this year too, so we can't say, because it's a federal mandate, we have to do it.
Right.
And they also have 9 potential new students who will be, if they anticipate that those students will come to their school, but we're not sure yet. So because of that, I did a projection that I know for sure right now that 10 out of the 23 are coming up for reevaluation this school year. And I anticipate about like 4 or 5 reevals coming up from the 9 that will be enrolled there.
So you're saying though that if they need a speech and language therapist, right now we might not be able to help them this year. Did you say that or did I
Or
misunderstand?
don't have to. This
Okay.
year, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, but we are going to or we're not going to?
We only have to do the evaluation portion this year.
So the
Okay.
evaluation, if they qualified for speech and language therapy in the past, like if they have been identified as having speech and language impairment
Right.
or speech and language as a related service
Right,
for their disability,
Right.
then our obligation is to do reevaluation to determine continued eligibility for those services.
okay.
And then we'd have to actually provide the services next year.
Next year. So this year,
We don't have to provide the services, we would just have to evaluate or reevaluate
Right.
those students who are receiving those services to basically,
okay, so if there's students that need that service and we choose not to do it, then it's up to their parents or Open Wings to accommodate those kids this year.
correct, this year, yes.
Right, this year.
We would go through the evaluation process and say, yes, this child needs speech and language services. We will be able to be funded and provide those for next year. However, this year, I'm not sure what the arrangement is between Open Wings and/or whatever therapeutic services there are for children to get those services this year. But we are not mandated to do that this year.
No, and I guess I
I know, you
understand that,
get
I'm
it,
just
I'm
thinking
just-
of those kids.
Yeah, right, of
and
course.
The parents and,
Right.
you know, if there's anything,
It's also
You know,
not
if-
cheap for a public school district.
no, I get, no,
To
I
send
know, I
somebody
know
over
that.
there for, you know, and I'm not trying to
No, I get that.
discourage, you know what I'm saying, but it's, I mean, that's for 15 reevals for a psych who's half-time. I mean,
No, I,
like, it's a significant amount of work for
How
somebody.
much time does it take to evaluate a kid?
Well,
I mean,
let's-
I know everybody's gonna be a little different, but an hour, 12 hours.
Right, yeah, great question. So, let's take Open Wings, for example.
Yeah.
There is a student that attends Open Wings. So when I had to complete an evaluation for that student, I spent 2 days at Open Wings conducting observations, consulting with different teachers, one-on-one support people in the classroom, reviewing records, conducting tests, because I had to do testing there.
Yeah.
And then next component is actually coming back to do the report, review all the data, put the report together, and then hold the meeting. So altogether, it's 2 to 3 days.
Full days.
Mhm.
Okay.
So when Open Wings made this decision, did they come to us at all and try to understand what we could or couldn't do for them? They didn't.
There is
So,
a
so,
council
so,
solution.
no. So Open Wings is
They-
leaving those kids in the lurch.
Well, we assume that.
But, I mean, and I don't know
They
what the
have-
Open Wings situation was before or why they had to move, but
I don't
anyway.
either.
I get that, but it's,
I don't know if it was just because of the physical space,
right.
that they moved out,
As it
but
was shared with me, initially they thought that they were moving from Kenosha Unified to Kenosha Unified.
Oh.
They found out later on that even though the address is a Kenosha address,
Oh,
that
it's
it falls
technically
within
pursued.
our boundaries.
Gotcha.
and there was some panic on their part when that was found out, and our part, to be completely honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tough. Yeah, tough
All right,
situation.
sorry to stop.
Okay, yeah.
No,
No,
on the
those are,
contrary, I
like,
appreciate
honestly,
that.
same questions we've been thinking about too.
Thank you. Now let's look at the impact on the district's child find responsibility. So if we consider that we have 102 students within our school district currently, and then 32 students are moving into our district, and we have to do child find activities for them, that's a 31.4% growth. So that is a huge growth within 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, district comparison, this data comes from 22-23 school year. Salem actually had 2 school psychologists last year to accommodate their 130 students with special ed. So now we have, with our child find responsibilities, we have surpassed that number. And this kind of puts in perspective how Bristol compares to other school districts.
So we might have to consider hiring a third for next year.
You know, on the other hand, I mean, I was looking at Randall, and they've got 4 less kids, and they've got a lot less resources, actually. And I think you know the district administrator there.
Bob?
Yeah, how do they make that work?
To be quite honest, the psychologist is the biggest piece. Taya's spread thin as a half psychologist, half special ed director.
And Randall has a full-time.
Yeah,
psych.
because we have to, like what Taya was mentioning with the re-evals or the evals,
Yep.
that has to come from a psychologist,
Got it.
period.
Okay, so that's.
And that's just time. I mean, really, it's just, not that I don't wanna discredit the work that's involved, but
Right,
it takes
right.
time to test kids, be in the classroom, and that's where that split comes from.
Yep.
And I think that's where we struggle in a sense, is that the psychologist part of it with 96 kids and re-evals, and now the Open Wings piece of it will be the struggle.
Yep.
There's just
Yeah.
the time of it, yeah.
Right.
Do we have any speech kids that potentially could be graduating out of speech?
This year, we actually dismissed, I believe, 11 students.
I was gonna say
last
a dozen
year.
kids.
Wow.
So
especially, I
Maybe
was
we can hope some of them are just
are more likely to
and openly listen.
So I would.
Yeah, right.
Just saying.
Yeah, I see where you're going with
Right,
that, yeah.
right.
Yeah. Speech onlys are, it sounds terrible to say, but they help. Yeah, when you're talking about overall numbers, kids that just receive speech are, not as difficult, or I shouldn't say, as time consuming, right, yeah.
Right.
Alright, time to celebrate. All of our special education and ELL teachers are returning, so we have not had to hire any teachers, so that is definitely something to celebrate. So we have stability in that, so yay. We have not lost any educational assistants over the summer either, so that's another great news. And the district has improved mentoring of district educational assistants. We have developed new handbook for our EAs. We have updated their job descriptions, and we have new and improved upcoming training sessions prepared for them.
Nice.
So we're very excited about that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Well, just besides the workload, I mean, what keeps you up at night? I mean, what's your other major concerns? Anything? I mean,
Relating to the
I mean,
school.
Yeah.
Well,
Fair.
excitement.
I mean, we have to celebrate, I mean, we have the celebration, which is great, and I'm just curious if there's, you know, like in Carrie's situation, the weights, you know, what weights besides the workload in particular, is it just the workload that's the biggest weight?
Well, it's very individualized in the special education department. For example, exciting news such as having our life skills wing is truly something to be celebrated, and we are so fortunate to have that. And at the same time, from the students' perspective though, they are coming back into new environment that they need to adjust to.
Mm.
So that is, it's stress invoking
Mhm.
within those students.
Sure.
You know, they don't know that yet, because they anticipate to go back to that same classroom, which is no longer in existence for them. And same thing for the teachers and EAs who work with those students. They have to teach them new routines, get them used to the environment, and relearn how to
Sure,
live
sure,
in that
sure.
environment for 7-8 hours a day.
Yeah, interesting.
So, those types of things.
Sure.
And then when it comes to Act 20, it will have impact on special education too, as well as referrals. So that's another consideration. When it comes to writing plans for the students who fall below the 25th percentile, the good news with that is that some of those students already have IEPs. So we don't have to worry about spending time writing those individualized plans for them for Act 20.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Jack's district administrative report.
Lucia.
Construction, Jack
So-
Musar's construction update.
So, first of all, I just pulled up the, right here, thanks. So the simplest way you can describe arbitrage is just that you can't make more interest on the money that you're borrowing than what you're paying, if that makes sense, right? So if you have a $100,000 mortgage and 7%, you can't have that money in the bank making 8%. That's the definition of arbitrage, right? So the good news is that our arbitrage liability rebate is 3.927, which means we can't make more than that. What we are making is 3.728, which is unheard of in literally our lifetime, maybe. So if you look at that number in the middle of the page there, The maximum amount that we could have earned without having arbitrage, which means you have to pay the IRS back, would be $79,000, blah, blah, blah. We are at $1,022,000. So literally, we are $50,000 short of being exactly where we could be, which is pretty neat for our kids.
Mhm.
We have $1 million that we've spent on this project, that is going to allow us to do things, that we weren't, that Kyle spoke to some,
Yep.
like the playground. We had I think we had $150,000 or $200,000 originally, scheduled for, budgeted for the playground. We spent $450,000 on the playground.
Right.
Because of this, it's like, there's some really cool things that we've been able to do. Segue into, my,
Can I ask
You
a
go ahead,
quick
yeah.
question? Did this money have to go into the building project? Or
Yes.
could it have gone into fund balance? Okay.
you can't put money, you can't take referendum money and put it in
Well, it's not,
operational funds.
it's actually earned money on the referendum money,
Right.
so I didn't know if that was separate. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of sticky about that. And this is far more than we anticipated. First, I'm gonna take you back 2 years. The
Yeah.
first guy we talked to said he could make us 300,000.
Oh, don't get me
remember
wrong,
that?
I think this is great.
The second
It's
one
just
came back and said
As
900,000.
Steven's saying, he's worried about a $500,000 shortage 2 years from now. My brain is like, well, maybe we should have put this money into reserves for shortfalls.
Yeah, I wish we could have.
Which we could have.
Okay.
We have to spend it through referendum, funding, unfortunately. They're very, very sticky about that.
And we have to
Um,
spend it by a certain time too.
When is that?
So, so we're supposed to spend it by, it would be the date that we borrowed, which was June 9th of 2021. So it's supposed to be
Oh.
by June.
Okay.
So I think you have 3 years to do it. However, they have all of these clauses of like, basically, if it's less than 3%, which I think is for us like $500,000, if we're underneath that, they don't care. You can leave it there for as long as you want to.
Okay.
What
I thought this was in
There were a
22.
couple steps to it. If we had to spend a certain amount of money by a certain
22.
date.
So I'm sorry, 20.
Yeah.
So 20, because the year will turn over to 25.
So now I'm like, it's
Yeah.
over a year
Yep.
past.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yep. So 25
Okay.
in. I'm sorry.
No, that's
I
good.
misspoke. Yep. 25 will be in June.
Okay. All right.
And then I want to see, where am I here? Here we go. So.
You know, you can see, I was looking at the bottom corner of the TV to see.
There we go.
Good eye.
So,
I like this printout.
yeah, so, I worked with Nexus, we've been working together for a long time, and we had talked about, part of the deal when we had gone to referendum was Fund 46, and looking at that in our future funds, right? And obviously, we, didn't pass a referendum, but we're gonna continue to have these maintenance and future costs, depending on how it looks. Right, so this will become a priority for the district as to like where we want to pull these funds from. And I know that Joanne and I had spoke about the roof.
Yeah.
And why we wouldn't, do all of it, right? And speaking to those, that's number one on our priority list, is we currently have, knock on wood, we're looking at probably about $500,000 that we still have in contingency funds. So if you look at the far left column, the roofing replacements of 4, 6, and 10, which would be like the third grade wing and up that way, which we were planning on, I don't know what you would call it, but maintaining versus replacing, right? So that $324,000 that's there is for full replacement. What we have in the current referendum funding is for maintaining, right? Like patching, you know, where rubber is rubber. It could last another 10 years if you patch it, if you do this. If we're gonna spend the $325,000, we can scrape it clean, replace it, and it'll be good for 40 years, right? Which obviously would be ideal. We just, when we're looking at spending our referendum funds, you have to look at where you can do that. The door replacements on 7 and 9 are in the back where the kids come in from the bus, the playground area.
Where you were
That's the one where
talking.
we
We were just
2000, yeah.
talking about that,
Right.
where like
That's gonna be
literally,
replaced.
that's also, we've already got a quote for that, so that'll be our, I guess, 1B replacement within the roofing and that.
So that's 7 and 9, or doors 2, 13A, 13B will
All
also
of
be
the
done?
above.
Oh,
Yep,
they'll all
yep,
be
and
done.
that's, I think,
Gotcha.
50 or 60,000, what is it?
58,000.
58,000,
Right.
yeah. So between that and the roof, we're looking at 400,000-ish. We should be comfortably be okay to do those 2 major improvements right off the bat. If we have a couple $100,000 left over where we could do more, we would love that. As of right now, those are the 2 main priorities that we are, we still have, as you guys saw this afternoon, it's not done, right? So you don't want to necessarily spend money that you don't have. We also are so close to the arbitrage line that if we were to ever go over that, we want to make sure that we have a couple of $100,000 that if we had to pay arbitrage, we would still have it there. And then obviously we can look at other replacements on this list if we have money left over. So that's where we're at. I think this is,
really good. It's
Yeah.
full of information.
Sure.
I always have a question.
yeah, that's okay.
Didn't we replace any of the roofs?
Oh, yeah, we
Oh,
put
'cause
like half a
everywhere
billion
else you've got red, like it was done.
So we're completely replaced in 23, 24.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's asphalt, that's not roofing.
yeah.
We did a lot of that, but if you look at the X's, you're looking at 10 to 20 or 20-plus year needs as to where they would need to be replaced or,
So
Oh,
this,
so those were the
this-
ones that were recently done.
yeah.
this area 5 and 11 were done.
I'm sorry, can you give me
16 and
EDM?
17.
Yeah.
11.
EDM 11, right,
Yeah.
so if you look at roofing replacements, area 5 and 11, if you look at the X and you follow up, Joanne, to the
Yeah.
top,
Yeah.
it says 20-plus years.
Yeah.
So that means it was
done with
replaced, like,
replaced,
correct.
not just repaired.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means that, like, they probably didn't even have to put it on this sheet, but to be honest, in 20 years, we're gonna have to, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just basically saying,
But you,
it was replaced, but in
Yeah.
20 years, it's going to be needing to be replaced again, right?
Right.
Yeah.
it's just, I only asked because you got a lot of the red ones saying it was done, and none of the roofs say that, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they did it that way.
Okay.
I think that, like the roofing replacements area 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9,
Yeah,
they did all of that, like flashing replacement. They did all the patching. They did
Yeah.
all of that, which probably should be done every 10 years. I'm
Yeah.
guessing that X is around 5 to 10 years, yeah.
yeah,
So,
okay,
yeah.
good.
If we would have done all of the roofs from scratch, it probably would have cost us the entire referendum, to be honest. Or probably,
chunk.
I don't know, $10 million bucks. I don't
Yeah.
even know what it would have cost us, to be
Yeah.
quite honest.
Okay.
But, yeah, so, this is something for us to review as an admin team and as a board. The one thing that I will say, as far as budget is concerned, is the asphalt for the parking lots, really, we should have on a annual basis. So we would do, like, they're going to do
The seal coating?
yeah, they're gonna
Yeah.
do the west, or they're gonna do the north lot tomorrow. We already did this east lot, And if you guys haven't been to the back parking lot, you can already tell it's a year old, right? So my preference would be, as a board, as a district, that we would budget, you know, $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and we would just rotate, right?
Sure.
We would do the north lot one year, and then we would do the east lot the next year, and then we would do the back parking lot the next year, and just continually rotate that per year. Obviously, with a Fund 46, we have like, what do we have in there, 3,000 bucks?
3,000.
Yeah, which, you know, we've just, Stephen had just asked that question.
Parking spots.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, exactly. So just something to think about, that's all, you know, as a board, you know, as an admin team, we, you know, I just wanna be responsible for, what I don't want to happen is, and I think the community would agree with this, is that in a decade from now, you know, God willing, I'm still here, but we go out, you know, we go out in a decade and say, hey, we need 25 million bucks because we didn't maintain anything that we had done back in 2023, 24, right? So,
And you can't use the referendum money to maintain things that were in the building.
like that extra $400,000 or $500,000 would be awesome if we could slide that into Fund 46. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't want you to do it the wrong way.
No, I know,
Just asking.
but what I'm saying is, I don't know what that number is. They call it a diminishing fund, right? So like, whatever percentage of the referendum that you have,
Yeah,
whatever percentage of that fund that you have left over, they don't bother you about spending it, right? Otherwise, we're supposed to spend it within 3 years of the, so June, I believe it's June 9th, when we got the bonds actually issued to us of 2025, we're technically supposed to have. So like, if we have a roofing project or an asphalt project, we would have to figure out as a board, how, and an admin team, how we would pay for that, because technically, next summer, we would want that work to be done. So we would probably have to hire somebody as a as a general contractor, or pay them in good faith ahead of time,
right.
or be underneath that percentage of whatever that diminishing fund is.
they'll
And I don't
let
know
us
that
where
number.
we're at
Yeah.
as it gets closer, because we still haven't spent.
We also don't wanna go over that arbitrage number,
Right.
because now the longer that we have that money, the more interest that we're earning on that,
Right.
possibly $500,000 or $400,000 that we might have left over, so it's,
It's a sad world when you hope you don't earn more.
isn't
Well,
it?
we're
Isn't it?
actually at
It sure is.
We're over 5.
We've been at 5%, yeah.
4% in the LGIP. So, you know, with PMA, they make a lot more money than we can in the LGIP.
All right. Good.
Yeah, this is excellent. So when we start talking 25, 26, we have this to determine how we find the money for the asphalting over the years and such. Yeah. Good, excellent, thank you.
Questions? Do I have anything else on my report? I'm sorry.
Strategic plan.
I like that building update though, that's something really good to always refer back to.
It is, and we worked, I mean, literally, like for instance, the fire alarm system. We know that the fire alarm system is going to be there for 20 years, but it's nice to just see here on the sheet, like, hey, public, community, this is something that we have done. Like, in 20 years, if we don't maintain this, or, you know, like,
It's gonna have to be
we're just gonna have to be replaced, right?
Upgraded, for
Upgraded,
sure.
yeah. So
And it's
they,
actually a requirement of Fund 46
to have this.
to have
Yeah.
that, so
Yeah,
we
and
needed
it's,
it done and.
it's good all around.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's, I got this. I'll keep it, here we go. Such a, yeah. I can't click on this one here. So, really, not a ton update, I always wanna, just update you guys on where we're at. The scheduling of the exploratory courses, Carrie's, meeting with the interventionists as far as the achievement is concerned. Our leadership retreat, I did, email you guys in my Friday update about the leadership retreat. We have been working on communication styles, and it's hard to explain, but they're called voices. And it's very
Eye-opening?
eye-opening. For example, Ollie and I are exact opposites. Imagine that. When it comes to like extroverted and organization, and so it's been really neat. Dennis, who's the superintendent at Edgerton School District, is going to come and do a little bit of our staff on Wednesday when we come back to school. But it's very, I'm not doing it justice.
It helps you learn your strengths and challenges and how you can build into becoming a better leader by focusing on the things that you need to improve upon, or how your major strengths can assist the entire team in improving the leadership skills. So it's
How you
quite
approach
interesting.
people,
Yeah.
how you lead,
Makes a lot of
knowing
sense.
your faults. Taya, do you have anything to add? I don't know, I thought it was very eye-opening for me, and I've done a lot of reflecting personally since we've gone, and I just have thought about a lot of all of us together
Yes,
as a
that-
team.
Mhm. So a lot of it is based on the psychology and self-reflection, like you said. So understanding yourself, your own strength, and then being able to relate and see the same things in other people, so that you know your audience and can understand what is the best approach for them to receive the information that you're trying to relay to them, and how to mold your leadership to make the most impact on the audience that you are addressing.
Yeah, great.
And,
And how you're hardwired. Some things we just can't control because that's how we are. We're hardwired that way. Anyways, the red ribbon ceremony, community engagement, we actually got the postcards and posters today. So we have an entire list that we are going to personally invite and run around, and then if you guys have any other suggestions on, or if you want a stack of them to hand out, just let me know. We got 200 postcards and 40 posters. We're
That's the 11th, correct?
September 11th.
Okay,
Yep,
that's right.
And that ceremony's like from 4 to 6, I believe.
6 to 8.
Oh, it is 6 to 8. Okay, excellent. Well, no, because I was gonna ask, because of cross-country that night, and,
Yep,
you
6
know,
to 8.
that's a lot of parents
Yep.
and such, and so, yeah,
Yep.
okay, good. Good,
This,
thanks.
I will send you guys this end of the year, beginning of the school year checklist. It's crazy to look at, it's like 14 pages, but that's the way we operate as a leadership team. That's part of our BLT. We literally go through that, and it's our operational system. Every single meeting we have, 3 pages apiece maybe, of things that we need to check off before the school year starts. And I was gonna share it with you guys today, but it doesn't, it's not clickable, but it's a neat system. It's almost like overwhelming to look at, because it's like, holy smokes. This is 8 of us, and we have like 14 pages of things that we accomplish in the summertime. Those are, I guess, some of the highlights. If you guys have other questions, feel free to ask. I didn't want to go too much into detail, just because sometimes I
So just a quick clarification,
Yep.
and again, I've been, very positive about what the administration team has accomplished with the strategic plan up to this point. Just to clarify, up to this point, we have not addressed or taken a look at, I shouldn't say addressed, taken a look at a gifted and talented program. That's not part of the strategic plan yet. That would be up to the board to, I guess, if we thought that was important, to be able to ask my question that I asked on Google, as a board, we would need to agree to do that and ask for what that would look like, what it would cost. So again, when we look at 25, 26, I mean, I think overwhelming, you know, the parents would love to have a gift and talent program. But for us to really be able to speak to them, I think, you know, we would need to see what it would look like and what it would cost probably.
Wasn't there a committee of employee staff that worked on that and came up with a couple of options?
So, yes and yes.
Okay.
So, to answer your question, there has not been anything official as far as gifted and it's not labeled gifted and talented, right?
Okay.
What we have worked on is extension programming for Project Lead the Way, clubs, those type of things that have not been labeled as far as gifted and talented is concerned.
Okay.
But if you looked at the grand scope of it, for instance, the STEAM or STEM club, you know, some of our different band extensions,
Right.
some of those things would fall under the scope of gifted and
You've
talented.
got the math kids that are going to Central and eighth grade.
24, they have their, the students that go to Central in the morning for their extended math, you know,
Right.
program.
Right.
We have the Math 24 math club, for a lack of a better term, the math team.
Right, right, right.
Those type of things would qualify underneath the gifted and talented scope,
Right.
but we just haven't labeled them as such, if that makes sense. Like, we don't have a gifted and talented coordinator, we don't have a gifted and talented program.
Right.
We've been trying through clubs and other extension activities to make those opportunities for kids.
Right.
I hope that answer helped.
Yeah.
If we wanted to have a specific gifted and talented program
Mhm.
with a gifted and talented coordinator,
Mhm.
I believe would be a board decision to go ahead and move forward with that.
But do we have any of the quote or outline or anything from that last committee? Is that too old or is that relevant?
The committee, what the committee worked on was looking at opportunities.
Oh.
For instance,
Okay, so
the
not an
STEAM.
actual program.
Right, it was like the STEAM club, science, technology, you know, and, so that came out of that committee. Like the jazz band, the geometry class where the kids go to Essential first thing in the morning. Those are types of things that the committee has worked to extend as a part of the committee. However, I don't know that they're labeled as gifted and talented.
So I guess I don't know if I can ask this question. I mean, my question would be, you know, do the educators at the school, yourself, Carrie, and such, believe that the gifted and talented program would be helpful? And,
Yes.
okay.
I don't know. Short answer, yes.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks.
Right.
Other,
Of course, our public,
sorry, other questions about my report?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to number 9. I think it's clear to say that there's no public here for comments.
Right.
Moving on to number 10, committee updates, finance committee, Joanne.
That would be me. We have Leslie met with Sue a few times. Sue had this really cool program that somebody gave her with easy instructions. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And Leslie was able to take the report that Sue gave, which was from last year's data. She actually modified it because the Google Doc form that we had was a little bit more difficult. In any case, it's very cool, and it has pretty much every ability to easily print whatever reports we want, or take a look. But before we present it to the board as a whole, I thought we should have Jack and Sue take a look at it and make sure that they're also on board. I mean, I personally think it will make things so much easier for you too, but you might look at it and say, you're nuts.
No, I
So-
actually love the program. I just knew the setup was gonna take about 100 hours.
Yeah, well, what did she say? She's about 12 hours in it, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah, now but we can talk about it when we sit down, let Leslie
So
speak
that's
to
my
it.
update.
But she's not using the program per se, she's using Excel now
Oh.
to essentially do the same as what the program accomplished. To be able to drill down and such, and again, go from, where we're at with the numbers here, and then you've got a zillion pages of detail here, and what she's trying to do is have something in between
Sure.
that the community and the board can look at and slice and dice a little bit, as well as yourselves and such. So that's what she's trying to accomplish, which I think is wonderful. And again, she has expertise that certainly Joanne and I don't have, but obviously it has to work for
Sure.
administration and the team and so forth, so.
Yes.
So
Wednesday.
that's next Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay.
Sorry, I had the 29th in my head, because I'm gonna be here.
That was Thursday.
And we had the 26th was the day that we
Was-
wanted, no, we're doing it Wednesday, the
Wednesday.
28th.
I just,
Everybody
yeah,
can make it.
yeah, I'm good with the 28th.
Yeah.
The first day with the teachers back, I didn't want to commit and
Sure,
not be here.
sure.
And then Thursday's open house.
Right.
So Wednesday, I'm good on Wednesday.
So it
You
shouldn't
guys are-
take very long, it's pretty cool, and it's fun to look at stuff that seems to anyway solve problems.
Yeah.
So that's all I have, and then the next meeting, we should be able to show everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
See you Wednesday, a week from today,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We said 6. Right, Steve?
He'll give a,
I know.
agenda that can be posted.
I have to put that together. I was gonna do it today, but I ran out of minutes.
Sounds good.
The guys that originally created that program did it in Google so that they could email all of the results out to their staff,
Yeah,
mass email.
but Excel also allows that.
Not everybody has Excel.
Yeah.
Only the office has Excel.
That's something to talk about Wednesday.
Well,
yeah. It sure is. Yeah, I don't have
Because
Excel.
obviously it has to work.
6
for
o'clock.
everyone,
Yeah.
so. Good.
So she'll get you the.
Who is that
agenda.
guy? I was thinking,
I'm sorry.
who's
I didn't-
walking into
I
the
wasn't
room?
laughing at you, Stephen. He just scrolled in with his
We're in
hat
a
on.
Okay.
He'll give you the agenda.
Who's this cat coming in?
Policy committee.
No, you-
For policy committee, we're moving right along. We've almost finished all the 600 finance policy, 6,000, sorry. I think there's like 10 or so left. And most of them because Tom wasn't there at our last meeting and we had assigned about 7 to each person to research and compare. So we'll go through that the next meeting. We're gonna start with 8,000s for operations. And then, I know I already talked to both of you, but next September meeting, we'll probably have a few short action items as far as how to move from committee to board and updates them.
And I have some answers for you from, Neola.
Neola.
Like too many ends.
Yeah, because we
Well,
have it
on
already
how to move
compiling a
forward.
good chunk where we just need to revise the date, and it's been this, they're all the same with all the local schools.
Well, and I thought, I'm sorry, I didn't mean- but what I thought that because we have the committee is to me that technically would be our first reading. If we have a committee that would do that, then the committee would just come to us, or I should say the board, myself included, whatever. But like, and then that would be the second reading and saying like, this is our proposal as a committee. Otherwise, what's the point of having a committee if you have to do a first reading with the board again and then take it back to committee and then bring it back? To me, the work that your committee is doing would be the first reading, in my opinion. And then when they would present it to the board, that would be the second meeting, or the second reading, and then it would be an action item versus I have it on there as first reading item tonight, but I guess I don't have the experience with that. Nicole, I thought, I don't know, we seem to, I thought it seemed like a good idea, I just don't know that that.
Because like you said, if we present it and we give a recommendation and, you know, if the board itself is like, well, I'd like to look more into that, then you can always say, well, we can take that one back for the next.
Sure.
Post for the next
Yeah.
one.
Or you like the recommendation we did give, or you don't, you know, I mean, that could
Right.
be.
I know you were mentioning with the 6,000s that 99, if I'm right, 99% of them were just updating the dates. Those
I
can
would say
be,
about half.
okay,
I
as
would
long
say
as there's
that.
no wording changes that we would, you know, that we would know that,
It would
that,
just be revision that we've seen it.
yeah.
It would just be.
And then that could be changed
Does that-
without having
That
to
doesn't
come to
even
the
have to
board.
have the first read, and that's what we had discussed as well, and
Okay.
just saying it was revised
Yep.
by the policy committee. In my
That
opinion,
it
I
was
would be
read.
okay with that.
Yep, and then
Um,
any changes then would come to the board.
Correct.
Oh, okay,
Word changes,
okay.
that's my
So would
understanding,
I just
everyone.
forward that to you? Which ones are, we're just revising the date?
And then we would just tell Tim and board docs, saying that these have been reviewed by our policy committee, please update the revision date. There's no,
And that's kind of a check for you,
Yeah,
check
no-
it off the list, it's
yeah,
done.
no
Yeah,
updates
nice to
needed,
get
or
some out of the way.
no revisions needed
Just the
for
date.
X, Y, and, you know, however many you have.
So I guess I'm a little confused. So Neola typically gives us twice a year a certain group of policies to review.
That need changes.
That need changes.
So we have, there's a huge
Right.
chunk
But we
of
have a
policies
bunch
that
that-
haven't been reviewed
Correct.
since 2008. That
Or
may not,
2017, or like, I think there's.
Gotcha.
that may not work with the
Yeah.
Gotcha,
environment at
gotcha.
the
So we'll
moment.
still get that from Neola, and we'll still look at that, or the policy
We'll still
committee
look at
will look
that.
at
We'll still
that
get
first.
are you
Gotcha.
saying like the two twice a year?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
got one yesterday, I think, that I'll have to forward
Then
with you.
that'll
that
go to
we'll
the
talk about
policy
Nicole,
committee.
but-
Okay.
But it's,
Yeah.
so those are changes, like legitimate, like,
That would have to come to the board's review, but just
Right.
correct.
no changes in that, just the actual date on the top.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Let's
it's great.
update it and
And
move it
then-
along.
Very good.
You know,
Thanks.
everyone in the
Yeah.
community knows that it has been seen,
Yeah.
it was looked at.
I think it's
and-
great work, and I'm appreciative of the board and the way we've gone in that direction, I really am, so. At least to the point where if we're gonna go into a policy and somebody from the community clicks on one and says, oh, okay, well, I know
No, we
Starkey
don't.
looked at it in 24 at least,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
right, you know?
At least they
That
can
to
say
me,
it's
that's a
not
good- Right, but that's,
15, 20 years old, they can
Right.
say that it's.
No, I think
it's
that's-
up to date.
I think
Okay,
it's-
perfect, thank you.
I think it's great, I really do. So I appreciate your work.
So, and I thought the first read was we kind of look at the rough stuff before we had a committee. We look at, and then we say, yes, we like this, or we don't like the word Tuesday on there. And then you send it back to Neola, and they take out Tuesday, and they give us one that we read and go, okay, no Tuesday, we're good, right?
Yes.
Isn't the second read really just kind of?
So really, this discussion item really should be second read, because if you guys have done, and I believe,
That should be the first.
I think your guys' hands-on work, research,
Agreed.
making sure that it's aligned with the community and such, that's your first reading.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you would bring it to us, and then that would satisfy us as a
Exactly what I
second
just
read.
said, yep, I agree,
Okay.
100%.
That's like talking through my
Yep.
head, it makes more sense.
I just, we put it on here because Nicole said, can we put the first reading of the policies 8,500? And I said, yep. But to me, what the committee has done with the work is already the
Is
first read.
sufficient, right.
So what they would then come to present to say, this is our
Recommendation.
recommendation, that would be the second read, unless somebody says, go back to the drawing board. And then they would come, and then you would come back with a revised vision for the next month.
Right. Can we
Okay.
change that right
You
now?
can take action on any of the item, what does it say?
It's a discussion item.
But it does say it. huh?
That, right below it, you have action.
Action may be taken on any of the following items, is what in bold print it says at the top. So you would have to, I guess,
I don't see that.
I have a lot of bold on mine, tell me more.
on the agenda, it just says action may be taken
Oh, all the way.
on any
Oh,
of the
all
following
of
items.
them. I'm like-
Yeah.
Okay. You know,
So,
if everyone's
If it's
okay with
urgent.
it,
Yeah.
And we know that these are items that we need to address for the beginning of the school years, from my understanding. Give us a rundown of
For
what
the
your,
audit, it was, yeah, if you must have.
My only question in there was, and I thought we had some sort of a cooking club or on that class. Because one of them said, you know, for Christmas, for cooking class.
There's a
there's
elective.
an elective.
We were
now.
talking
Oh,
about now
okay.
that has a,
Anna and Sarah are
Yeah.
gonna teach an elective for middle
As
school
long
kids.
as we already have something, so we're
Mhm.
not throwing in a policy promising something like that.
Good point.
Okay.
It's a new elective.
so why we
Yeah.
put that in is because on the template, it said we had to choose a goal. And that was one, I was like, hey, don't we already have
Yeah,
that new elective? And
okay, I
I'm gonna
like
come
them.
in as your
I
taste
read them,
tester.
I think they're good.
Can you put her in charge of
I know.
policy committee for reason that's.
I know. I'd be like, yeah, I know.
All right, so do we have to vote on anything there?
Well, give us your,
So for the food services for the 8,500, there wasn't much change in any of it. It actually was very comparable with almost all the schools. Wording was just older. But we did, there was some, and we did agree with adding C wellness policy because they do combine. And then it just really needed an amount for when accounts go negative. As a committee, the vote was to go, a balance of $10 or greater. And then to make sure we have in there, notification is through established communications.
so right now, do they just continuously get to be negative until they just continue to stay negative, or is it cut off at a certain, I don't.
So
we can't.
as of now, even if you're 1 penny negative, it's out, your parents are getting called, right? Whereas this is like, it waits till about $10.
Oh, okay,
That's my
okay.
understanding.
It's just a notification.
It's just a
We
notification.
can't,
Yes,
we can't
Stop feeding
not
them.
give kids free.
correct.
It would just be the notification period in which right now, if 75 cents, if you're,
I
they
thought
eat
the
7
parents-
lunches in a day,
Right,
which he
yeah.
might,
He
right? But all of a sudden, you get a notification every day for him being 75 cents in the hole.
Correct.
This would just
So
delay
it was
that.
a little bit of a
notification.
buffer.
Right.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's all,
Yeah,
yep.
I like that. I thought the parents were able to, for some reason I thought it was like $2, that might have been something else, but yes.
$5
So
maybe?
those were the only really big
$3.
changes we
At
saw.
$3.
And we don't do this
notified,
alternative
You
meal.
only have $3 left.
Got it, got it. The parents like, I know I get some sort of, give
We
me some
we
money.
never do this alternative meal, right? We never do that.
We don't.
I mean, should we take that out? Or, I mean,
We
Sarah,
don't,
I guess
but
it's
it's
there
just
as an
good
option.
for
I think
us,
it's-
but is it required?
It's, we feed kids.
Yeah.
If it's chicken nuggets for the day, they get chicken nuggets.
That's what I feed them in my house,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever, we don't, it's
Okay.
past practice where you would shame kids for not having any money
No,
in their
I'm
account.
glad we don't do it.
And they would go get a cheese
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
taken out.
They would go get a cheese sandwich and a cup of milk, and
Right.
that would be their lunch
Yeah.
because they didn't have any, money in their account,
Right.
you know? Sarah just, okay, you know, and they get their lunch and we notify the parents that they're negative,
Right.
and go from there.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah.
Anything else in the food
For the
service?
food service.
Can I make a motion to accept the changes to the 8,500 food service as presented?
I will second that. All right.
All in favor?
Lawrence? Oh, aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Passes 4-0. Moving on to the 8510 wellness.
For this one was a struggle. We decided ours was very well out of date and just kind of pushed it aside. So then we all, as a committee, really liked New Glarus's, and then Waterford's. New Glarus is because they just revised theirs in April.
Waterford graded, right? Or,
Waterford is graded, yep.
their elementary school, I meant.
Oh, yeah,
As,
yeah,
as
yeah.
the district, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But theirs is more detailed as far as for the elementary part, so that part we really liked. So we pieced it all together. I did also compare it with, we also compared it with Central. But once you got down to, gosh, after the marketing section, Central was just very more towards high
High
school
school.
only. So it didn't really do well for our grades. That's when we went to Waterford and New Blair. So I copied and pasted all of it, so it looks better and you can read through it.
Yeah.
Also compared it with the Neola templates.
So this would be
That's good.
acceptable to Neola? We wouldn't have to like do any type of?
I believe everything
I
you pulled
believe
was from Neola in some point of fashion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because Waterford and New Glarus is Neola, and then we also went off the template that's
Yep.
here. Yeah.
for what it's worth, I did with things. I appreciate your work.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
unless Neola comes back and says you're missing something.
XYZ?
Yeah,
So then you would just present it to Neola that these are our changes and then they would say yea or nay?
Yeah, I would send
They-
them to Tim to have Tim to hold them and then.
And to be honest, if you,
They would be okay.
well, it's less of an ask and more of a tell.
Sure.
This is what we want as our wellness policy. Boom, here you go. This is pulled from your,
Your template
your,
anyway.
exactly.
Sure. Sure.
I don't think any, and correct me if I'm wrong, but anything that you pulled from either Waterford or New Glarus, they're all Neola.
it's actually in the template, it's just some of them,
Right.
like New Glarus listed in paragraph form, where
Sure.
Waterford's.
But they're all
ABC.
Neola schools, is what I'm saying, like, they're all, yeah.
Yep,
How-
Yeah, we would just have to change it to Bristol instead of Waterford.
correct.
Yeah.
But I like it. You did wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep,
Your
that's
committee
right.
did great.
Yep.
Great.
All right.
Thank you for your work.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the new wellness 8510 as presented, or
Nice.
8510 wellness policy as
Second.
presented.
Send that to Neola.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
I think so.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, the only other action item was regularly, and we just put this on the agenda every year, especially after, if there's a board change, but we just vote on time.
Change.
We've done the third Wednesday since I've been around for 5 days, or 5 days, 5 years. And the time, we've discussed whether we want to do 4:30, 6, 6:30, whatever. So I will leave that up to the board. I am flexible. Obviously, if I were to have a vote in it, I would say earlier than later, just because I'm here and my staff is here and they don't have to go home and come back. But I also know that that presents challenges for childcare and other things for the board. So I will,
Does Wednesdays work the best? It seems that Wednesday's
I-
been,
I like Wednesday.
I don't mind,
I like
I
the
think we
third
just-
Wednesday.
third Wednesday?
Well, or I could do Tuesday. I spend a lot of time in North Carolina in the winter. Keith has meetings on the third Tuesday of every month, so I'm good with the third Wednesday. I come back, and then go back.
I think the community's used to the third
Yeah.
Wednesday as
Right.
well. I'm okay with that. I think the staff is used to it now as a Wednesday. Obviously, if you guys were to change it, I wouldn't have a gripe in it, but I'm good with the third Wednesday. The time is obviously a different issue.
I'm also good going back to 4:30.
I would
Especially
make
through
it
the winter
4:30 back.
months.
I don't mind
Start.
4:30.
I would have difficulty with 4:30. And again, right now, we don't have issues that it seems anyway that the community is that interested in, but we may. And if we do, I think 4:30 is too early for the community to come and make it after work and such. So I feel strongly it should continue to be 6 o'clock.
I would agree with you prior to our recordings, but now at least we've given people an opportunity to
since we've changed it to 6 o'clock, we haven't had anybody in attendance.
Right. And it does impact school staff and I didn't realize I would like it, but I mean, I'm open. Whatever you guys decide.
You didn't realize, I'm sorry, you didn't realize you would like it?
I would like 4:30.
Oh.
I mean, now, you know, now here it's almost 8:30 already,
Yeah.
and I feel myself starting to go, because I get up at 4:30. So-
Get ahead of that
Okay.
paint.
I know. I said I wasn't gonna be held responsible for anything I said. 'cause
That was
We walked
strong,
up and down
wasn't
that
it?
hallway.
Holy smokes, that was
Yes.
strong.
All right.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's easier for the staff. Should they want
Would you be
to?
able to make
I
it
never
work?
knew.
you just happen to be right in our
Right.
view.
I don't, I mean, I have in the past, it's difficult, again, I know, I would vote nay, not only for myself, but more for the community. I just think, you know, the community in general would appreciate a 6 p.m. start, especially if we have issues that the community's interested in, whether it's grading system or whatever else the case might be.
Okay, do we take a vote?
Well, we have to have a motion before we can vote.
Oh, I make a motion, we keep the third Wednesday of every month and change the time back to 4:30. And then we have to go second.
All in favor of keeping the third Wednesday, changing the time back, the start time to 4:30? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
So motion would be carried 3 to 1. I can't count.
It's that peanut butter.
Oh my God, one of those.
I don't know how that guy was working.
Without a mask on,
I
First,
I first, she second.
first,
So that will start
Next month?
next month.
that's the action board. So that will be September 18th. We also are scheduled for our annual meeting in September 18th, so that might be,
Actually good, because that's going on.
yeah, so we would do regular board meeting at 4:30 with annual meeting to follow, or vice versa. We can talk about that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. I would say well, everyone can discuss it, but regular and then annual. Because annual we
Budget
want
and
to,
then annual.
yeah.
And then I don't know the legalities. Stephen asked a great question as far as like what the reposting of the budget would look like. You guys saw my update on Friday. We went with the 7 or 8% that the state was recommending, and Bristol came in at 17%. So obviously, no way we could predict that.
Well,
The fourth year in a row that we've, I mean, it's outrageous, so.
It's terrific,
Crazy.
especially if we can then bank money for the shortfalls down the road.
We can prepay debt or lower the mill rate, those are 2 options.
And if
Does
you
it go
lower
into
the mill
fund
rate,
10? It doesn't go into general?
no,
We-
you
we have a
can't.
cap.
That's what
Oh,
the
we have a cap.
referendum was for.
Oh.
Yeah,
The referendum
so
would have
we're
allowed it.
capped,
Okay.
so,
Ceiling.
yeah, we have the ceiling, so
Okay.
we could prepay more debt, which is always good.
Yeah.
Or we could literally, we'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
it's very
Okay.
it's always difficult, when we have the mill rate as low as we do to lower it, because we've, then create those expectations that we're gonna have that mill rate.
Right.
And then we would come back with a $3 increase the next year because property values increased 3% and not 23%, right?
Yeah.
So we can talk about all
Okay.
that, but my recommendation would be, if legal, we would just repost like we would and just start from scratch. And September 18th would be our new annual meeting, if you guys are.
And when does that have
Okay
to
with
be
that.
posted by then? If that's
10
the
days,
case?
right?
Yeah.
10 days previous.
So we would do it, yeah, the first week in September.
So next is future agenda items. I mean, I propose that we have a special meeting with the board to review what is going to be presented on September 18th.
Are we revising it?
What's that?
Are we revising the annual meeting data?
Like,
Yeah.
I think
That would be my
was-
recommendation,
That's his
if you guys are-
recommendation, I
yeah.
agree totally.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll have
Revise what was posted
Yeah.
in July.
Sorry,
Okay.
Sue,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
No,
It's all right, because I've had the auditor's input on some of it already.
Well, and-
So
I
it's
mean,
gonna be
it's-
closer to, actual.
Yeah, and the valuation, obviously.
So it'd be
We're
better to
10% off on
revise.
We got
valuation.
We got another grant in, so I
Yeah.
can slip that in too.
Yeah.
I guess can we have that special meeting prior to that 10-day posting? So in
Yes.
case the board does have questions and
Yes.
such that might change it, yeah.
September 7th.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just
Stuff I
want
know
to remind the
timelines, yeah.
board that the annual meeting is not a board meeting, it's a meeting
Right.
of
Yeah,
of the
right.
constituents,
The
right,
community,
right. So you guys don't, I don't want,
Yeah,
You
but
can
you
say-
don't have the final, you know
No,
what
you're
I'm
just
trying
here
to
as a
say.
community member,
You're
not here as a board
correct.
member.
You guys are here as community members
Right.
during that day.
Right.
So the information that we're presenting to you in that special board meeting,
Well, you don't have to take any recommendations we might have or
Correct.
questions, but
would
you
be
could.
informational only.
But you might decide.
Right.
Based on questions that come up and such.
We just have to be careful with what the board, whatever the board, information the board receives, the community should receive as well, to be fair.
At the same time,
In
close
ju-
to the same time.
I mean, am I overstepping, am I saying?
So you're
that?
saying that
Anyway.
the special board meeting shouldn't happen?
No, I'm not saying it
before-
shouldn't happen, I'm just saying that we also have to make sure, if we're speaking of, openness or, what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency, thank you. If we're speaking of transparency, which we've all agreed that we want to be more transparent, we just need to announce that special board meeting as a informational budget meeting and open the doors to the public, if we're going to have that. That would be my recommendation.
So it wouldn't be a workshop, it would be.
Yeah, it would be work, yeah, or.
Just a special board
Special
meeting.
board meeting.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
open to the public, that
Right.
would be advertised as a budget informational special board meeting.
Yeah.
Not that it would be it would just literally be a presentation from Sue and I that would include all of you and whomever wanted to come, because technically the annual meeting and the budget hearing are for the community, not for the board,
Right.
if that makes sense.
So we would be hearing that information, basically we'd be doing it twice.
Right.
And if you guys had questions or recommendations,
Well, we
I
can
don't
see
know
it,
if I would have
once,
that.
once you redo it, you have to post it 10 days in advance, so then we actually can see it,
Well, I've
right?
never,
Yeah.
I've never shown anybody the presentation prior to the meeting. Never,
Why?
never, never, never. The presentation has always been collaborated by the administrators and took the data off of the sheets that we had that would be given to the public. But I've never, ever shown the presentation ahead of time
To the board.
to anybody.
that's the point of the budget
So
hearing.
I read the
It's
DPI
the
rep
presentation.
website about developing a budget, and you know it actually says all staff and all board members are supposed to meet and put their, now, I'm not saying that we do that, I think a lot of people wouldn't wanna come, but the input to develop the budget is more than just you or me.
Right.
It's the eyes on everything. And that's according to DPI, which isn't always very clear, it's pretty clear.
I think the administrators survey their staff enough to that they know what they want. But this district does not have funds for what our staff wants. We just have to go with what we need. So we're covering the basics. I don't know that we have a lot of room for wants at all.
I don't remember saying once, I said, they say
Yeah, I've never given the presentation ahead of time. That's
I mean,
always
the
a
booklet,
nice
you don't
little
have to stand up
surprise.
and give the presentation, but I would like to see it in case we have questions.
Did we see it ahead of time when
We
we were
did.
supposed to have the last meeting?
We did.
I was told we
Couple
shouldn't
of
have
days
seen it.
anyway.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know that answer. That's my best answer,
The
is
presentation has
that-
exactly what's in the packet, except a
usually,
little more fun stuff.
usually in those instances, no, that's okay, usually in those instances, to ensure transparency, the board sees that the same time the public sees that, to not create any gray lines there. But,
well,
Okay, so let me
because
ask you.
technically you are community members in that instance.
No, I get that. So in July, when we
At
had
least
our-
that's my prior experience, I'm not saying
No, I
it's
got
right.
you, yeah.
Um,
I mean, in July, when we had our regular meeting, we had that information. So I noted that our expenses came in $600,000 less than the budget. And I had asked you if you could break that down. And the reason I asked that is I guess the next step of that is, you know, now that we see it broken down and how we ended up $600,000 less in expenses than what we had budgeted for 23-24, what are we doing differently potentially for 24-25, so that we don't end up with another, $600,000 of surplus, essentially. I don't know if surplus is the right word, but, but we were $600,000 under budget for expenses. And I think that's great in one respect, but that's $600,000 that potentially the board and the community and the administration would want to have used a portion of that to do something else, whether it's a gifted and talented program or it's or whatever else the case might be. So I guess that was my question. I haven't, I was assuming I'd get that answer at the very least at the annual meeting. And I guess what I'm thinking now is, see, I don't understand why the board couldn't get that information
I don't think you
at a
should.
special meeting.
I want to be clear in the saying that I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't. Right? I just want to make sure that whatever information the board gets, we also make available to the community, that's all.
Right.
So
No,
I'm
absolutely.
all for a special meeting, I'm all for the transparency, I'm all for that conversation, because that then relieves a little bit of that during that annual meeting, right?
Right,
Or
right.
that question of like, well,
Right.
why?
Yeah, 'cause I don't wanna
How did
bring-
the ad go to referendum and now all of a sudden there's 600,000?
Yeah, because I'd rather have that answer
Right.
before that
Of
annual
course.
meeting than me
Right.
asking that
Right. And-
during
and-
the annual meeting.
And did we know that 12 people, or whatever, 10 people were gonna retire all at the top of the pay scale? And you know what I mean?
No,
And
right.
we were gonna get this grant? No, we had no idea, right?
Right,
You know,
right, right.
and some of those answers that we can actually answer moving forward, I'm all for it. I literally just wanna make sure that whenever we do that, that we're opening it to the public, that's all I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
it says step number 1 on DPI development of a proposed budget, the staff and the school board should collaborate to develop a proposed budget that identifies expected revenues, expenditures, and fund balances for the budgeted year. And then it goes on. Such a budget should also show actual revenues and expenditures for the preceding year, actual revenues and expenditures for not less than the first 6 months of the current year, and estimated revenues and expenses for the balance of yada yada. But this is not just solely on your back, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. DPI is saying, we're all supposed to be in on this too. And I was disappointed when we had our workshop, because I thought a workshop like implies we had something to it.
Dig into it and.
And it was just presented to us, here's what it is, so.
The
I
staff
would like to-
actually has input as to what they're gonna spend the budget on, what it is that they want included in the budget. We have budget packets for the staff. So that part I implemented when I got here.
On the bottom up.
But there's,
Yeah.
I'm only one of 5 board members, but I wasn't at all in participating in any of the development
Yeah.
of the budget. Are you guys? supposed to be. So, I mean.
I mean, my impression is different boards around the state do it differently. And I think this board has been very passive. The school board in general in Bristol has been very passive as far as the budget. You know,
This is why I go to
bringing
DPI
together the
and
budget.
the Department of Justice for everything.
And I mean, I tend to agree with you that I think the school board should be more involved in meetings and sessions prior to that annual meeting when it is presented to the community. We haven't done that in the past.
And I don't think that, you know, it just hasn't been prior practice. I'm not saying,
Right.
like, I'm not denying that.
Right.
I would love that. I would welcome it.
Mhm.
It's just that we haven't had that want or expectation of the past. So if that's something
As a
that
full
we
board, we haven't, correct.
Right, right.
There's been one of us at least that has, but you're right, as a full board, unfortunately, we haven't wanted that. And I think it could be helpful to administration and such.
Okay.
But I guess, you know, I mean, we're late in the game at this point, but I think that
That's how
special
I
meeting,
feel.
at least we
We
see
should
the
see-
information up front.
We should still, though, even for this year, we should be able to look at the whole thing and ask questions and request changes if something is ridiculous to us, or you can say, no, it looks that way, but here's what it is. I'm good with all of that, but if we're gonna tell the public this is our budget, we know it, we're good with it, we are part of it, I feel like I really wanna know it and be part of it. And DPI says we should, so I would like to see it once it's completed, once it's revised. And if you want,
And then explain it to you how it got there.
only, I mean, I do have questions, but not every time. And I try to talk really fast.
No, I
Not
think
like
it's,
an auctioneer, can't do that, but,
I think it's a fair and great request, to be honest. Like, we would just need to plan it, that's all.
yep,
Just put it on the calendar.
all right.
Okay.
So
I can put out
I'm all for feedback.
a request to you guys of what would work the best for you that we.
Sooner than later. Obviously,
Good.
today's August 21st.
Yep.
Yep.
We are
And we're gonna
meeting
meet
as a
next Wednesday.
finance committee
28th.
Wednesday
28th, so
28th.
somewhere between the 28th and
and Labor Day. Or
the 8th, I think, would be 10 days prior to that.
yeah, it would have to be that first
So maybe after Labor Day. I know that's a tough week for you all. You know, school started.
No, that's actually easier than
the week
next week
before.
because we have the teachers. When the kids come back, everybody's just going.
So
The
maybe
the
the
teacher
third or
week
fourth.
before that
Third or fourth.
is,
The 4th.
first day of school would be the third,
Right.
Tuesday? Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, and then we would have to publish it by the 8th, right?
The 8th is a Sunday.
So we would have to
So,
publish it the 6th.
6th.
So Tuesday or Wednesday would probably be the best for us,
September 4th.
or 3rd or 4th, yeah.
Can we finalize that now, or do
Yeah.
we want to
Oh.
call this?
Do we want to confirm with Danielle?
Well, yeah, we have Danielle.
I can text her tomorrow and just to confirm it would be okay.
I'm not gonna put it in there,
Wednesday, September 4th?
because I had one in there for
You think you
yesterday.
both are?
I think so.
I'm okay with it.
I think I am.
I think it's great.
My calendars are all synced. Sorry.
What,
Just not the 9th and 10th.
what time?
Potatoes being so important. You could have left like 2 hours ago, you know.
You guys.
No, community member, as a parent,
Nice.
Aw.
Nice, we appreciate that. We
Aw.
appreciate that.
Can we do 4:30 if that works with
I'm fine with.
SG?
I'm fine.
Steven and Danielle? I still have to talk to Danielle if that day would even work.
Here's my question. I'm actually okay with that if that works out. But is it okay if I have a child sit here for a half hour? Because then she has to practice it.
Of course.
Okay.
We usually they bounce the ball off the wall or they sit on their iPad out there, but
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine.
We've had children come many a times to board meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, 4:30. I can make 4:30.
Wednesday, the,
Fourth, let me ask Danielle tomorrow, then I can shoot you guys all an email if that's okay?
that's good.
Be great.
Okay. All right. Moving on to future agenda items, which brought that up to the special board meeting, but, does anybody have anybody or anything that they would like to put for this September?
Well, I would like to add some for the,
Can you email those to us?
Policy question.
Policy.
The exclamation point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
some
Joanne would like to get,
recommendation changes.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
And Joanne, I'm sure, I don't know if it's just a regular update, I don't know how you want to put it down, but, after our
Update them
meeting
maybe
and
with,
such. Yeah, I'm sure she's going to want to update, just to give everybody kind of a heads up.
Danielle's watching, and she just texted me and she said that date is good.
Oh. Where are you?
Stalker.
Where is she? Get your butt to the meeting, Whitaker.
It's like, oh.
That's funny.
Okay, so you'll provide us what updates you want for policy.
Yeah, it would be the recommendations on some policies.
Okay. Stephen mentioned that you may have something for finance for future agenda items other than an update, maybe.
Although that might come up in our special meeting, I guess.
You could let me know on that,
Yeah.
when we have time.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing that I would like to maybe add on there is a discussion item of how we do the Pledge of Allegiance in the school. If we do once a week, if we do daily, just to get an update on how we do that and possibly change it if the board's okay with that. We would get an update and go from there. Is that okay?
Sure. As of right now, we do Monday morning all school announcements. And as of the Monday morning announcements, that's a part of it. So it's not it's first thing Monday morning. And then they get like the week in advance of like school, the lunch, what the lunch menu is, what the activities are, if there's any sort of,
Just what's happening throughout the week of
correct,
the
yeah.
school.
And then part of that is the Monday morning Pledge of Allegiance right off the bat, first thing during the week.
Okay.
That's how we currently do it,
Okay,
just so you're aware of that.
perfect.
Now, individual teacher-wise, I'm not exactly sure if there are pockets of different teachers that do it morning, like, for example, the 4K classroom does their, like, calendar song, right? They're teaching the kids the days of the week and the
Monday,
calendar.
Tuesday.
Right, and then they do the weather report, and
Yeah.
they might have the Pledge of Allegiance as a part of that. I couldn't speak for every teacher. I just know that the Monday morning announcements, that's part of it. That's all I know.
Honestly, and we can talk about this, and so honestly, I'd love to see it on a daily basis. I just feel it's something true and dear that we need to have, and kids need to know it, and we need to see it. That's all. But we can talk about that later.
Yep.
Anything else for future agenda items that you guys want to,
The payroll process, there was some communication via the email that might change. Can we discuss that, or you can give us an update on that the next meeting? The Payroll process.
did you have anything? Well, you can add it when you
I
add it.
did, but I make the agenda anyway.
Yeah, but you can add it when you
So
add it.
I'll add it when I remember.
Okay. Danielle, you can email us if you have anything you want to add.
So do you ever connect them?
She just texted me and said that date was
You
good.
went to- Oh.
She was watching
Yeah, so she
online.
must be watching.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, moving on to, if there's nothing else to add for future agenda items. Convey into closed session, the board will convey into closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.8 8.5, Section 1, Section 3, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility.
We have to vote.
Time is now, yes, 8:46. We should make a motion to convey into closed session. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Can we
All
take a
in-
break?
Yes, let's make the potty break.
Yeah, okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.